Upon entering a Cultivation novel game, I became an NPC in the starter village. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51 is so good. Thinking that the blue suits posted on the forum were envied and hated by others, if she posted her own harvest. Although Yunxi can also get purple equipment, free ones are always the best. She thought about it, took out the purple suit to admire it, and then sold it later. Halfway through her thought, she was suddenly stuck. This skirt is so beautiful. This skirt is light purple, with silk texture inside, which feels extremely smooth, and layers of gauze texture outside, with a white belt passing through the middle. She couldn't bear to sell such a beautiful skirt. After thinking about it, she hid deep in the cave to change into the skirt. She opened the system panel to see what she looked like. It was so beautiful. Especially when she walked, the layers of gauze swayed gently, which looked very charming, like a beauty walking on a small bridge in the south of the Yangtze River. Yunxi walked back and forth in the cave, looking at herself in the system, laughing. Although she could easily create purple equipment, and the bonus was also very good, it looked very ordinary in appearance, just a little better than the novice equipment. If she wanted to create good-looking equipment, she had to brush up weaving, sewing and embroidery to advanced levels. Among them, embroidery was already advanced, but weaving and sewing. In short, it was okay to wear ordinary clothes. After wandering around in the cave for a quarter of an hour, she stopped and had the mind to look at the introduction of the suit, Yunxi Palace purple suit, skirt. In addition to the skirt, there are 4 accessories: hairpin, necklace, bracelet, and ring. When all 5 pieces are gathered, there will be a bonus. It's simply too perfect. But, Yunxi Palace? What is Yunxi Palace? Yunxi used the detection technique. Yunxi Palace purple suit skirt, the skirt of the Yunxi Palace's miscellaneous disciples. Wear it, maybe you will find Yunxi Palace. Yunxi was startled and suddenly realized that Yunxi Palace. Could it be that this is the legendary sect? Now she can't throw this skirt away. And according to the detection technique, she has to wear it every day. After equipping the whole set of suits, Yunxi sorted out the ingredients and medicinal materials again, and then she noticed a purple book, Redemption of the Curse Master. As an evil profession, the lifespan of the Curse Master will be affected every time he attacks, and he will feel pain all over his body. This book will teach you how to save the life of the Curse Master and make the Curse Master not feel unbearable pain when he attacks. Yunxi. So Yunxi feels unbearable pain every time he attacks. She is really able to endure it, you can't tell at all. Thinking of the fact that she had attacked several times to help her find someone, Yunxi was worried and distressed. She immediately opened the book and took a look. The front part talked about some rules, such as not to harm the lives of ordinary people at will, etc. The middle part talked about how to avoid pain after the curse, such as helping orphans, etc. And at the end, there was a way to remove the Curse Master, which was equivalent to formatting, recovery and restart device. After using it, Yunxi would change from Curse Master LV 30 to ordinary person LV 0. She was silent for a while, but finally put the strange skilled book in a package and sent it to Yunxi by carrier pigeon. A few days later, Yunxi received a reply from Yunxi, along with a large bag of food as a thank you gift. It was said that this book would be very useful to her after picking up the spoils. Yunxi did not leave the dungeon, but opened her system panel. Name, Yunxi. Identity, Mushroom Village Villager, Chef, Level 40, Intermediate, Age 16, Appearance 90, plus 100, Strength 405, plus 100, Agility 410, plus 100, Spirit 359, plus 100, finally reached level 40. Now with the bonus of the suit, her strength alone is 500. Now it is easy for her to fight abandoned dungeon. She does not need to replenish supplies and can finish it in about a minute. Unfortunately, she still has not found any trace of the sect after shutting down the system. She walked out of the dungeon slowly. However, as soon as she went out, she found something wrong. There were many more people around than before, and these people stood separately in 2s and 3s on the surface. In fact, from the glances they passed by each other, it can be seen that they knew each other. Her position was surrounded by this group of people. Lu Yunxi's heart tightened, and her face remained calm. In fact, her vigilance had reached the highest point, and the bow and arrow in her hand were ready to go. It was not until she successfully passed through the crowd that she relaxed in her heart. She squatted not far away to pick fruits, but secretly observed this group of people. This group of people did not notice her abnormality. Because among the players, the rich and the European emperors are still a minority. Most people have little money and can only pick wild vegetables and fruits outside to fill their stomachs. Well, this is mainly the combat power party. They don't care what to eat at all, while the life players are willing to spend money to enjoy food. This group of people stood quietly outside the dungeon with serious and firm faces. The sun was so strong that she was sweating after being in the sun for so long. However, the group of people seemed not to notice and stood still without any chatter. Lu Yunxi observed their standing posture and her heart skipped a beat. Could they be from the military? She gradually moved away from the crowd and walked to a higher and farther place to observe. Not long after, a very imposing man hurried over to form a team. Almost in an instant, the men standing in groups of 3 or 2 immediately lined up neatly. It seemed that they had already agreed on how to form a team. The group of 5 people quickly entered the dungeon. Lu Yunxi was stunned. Other players also hid far away and watched the excitement. Are they from the military? Why are they here playing games? I heard they are military academy students. After entering the game, everyone found that exercising in the game would improve their physical fitness. In addition, the time here is 2 to 1 compared to the time outside, so naturally training in the game is better. It is equivalent to 2 days of training in 1 day. Not only military academy students, I heard that many schools have sent people to buy houses and build schools in the game. In the future, students will study here for 2 years, while the time outside will only be 1 year. Great. Then students can reduce their time in school and graduate earlier to go out for practical training. What are you thinking? In the future, the graduation time will still be calculated according to the outside world. For example, if you have to study for 4 years in college, you have to study for 8 years in the game before you can get a graduation certificate. This is to let everyone learn more. Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes and silently sympathized with these future students for a second. However, the next moment, she suddenly realized something. These people are teaching in the game, and they are still teaching knowledge from the outside world. Then can't she take the opportunity to learn things from the outside world? Maybe the technology of this era is advanced enough, and she can find out why she traveled here, and then find a way to successfully appear in the real world. Thinking of this, she became restless and asked someone about the locations of various schools. Chapter 52 Chief Engineer. The construction of various colleges in the interstellar world is in full swing. Lu Yunxi also found a job near the dungeon, helping to build the first military academy in the interstellar world. There is no way. They really give too much? In the game, if you want to build a house, it is not enough to have this skill in the real world. Only when you learn the construction skills in the game can you really build a house. In the interstellar era, there are not many places that really need technology to build a house. More importantly, the design must be beautiful, because now it is all built by intelligence. Once the shape is easy to collapse or unsafe, the intelligence will automatically refuse and remind the owner. So, in the interstellar era, it can be said that everyone can build a house, but in ancient times, this kind of hand-in-hand construction, not everyone can. Therefore, all major schools are recruiting people crazily. For example, the place where she works now gives her 50 silver a month, which is completely different from the modern price. Lu Yunxi really can't refuse so much silver. Well, in fact, of course she has a better way to make money. The problem is that in this deep mountain forest, where can she make money? It's better to find one in nearby. And 50 silver is indeed a lot. However, soon, the construction progress of the school was stuck. I heard that your construction skills have reached the intermediate level, right? A man suddenly came to her door and looked at her suspiciously. Lu Yunxi, who was resting, smiled politely. Yes, you can just call me Xiao Lu. What can I do for you? The man nodded and forced a smile on his face, which seemed to be quite stiff because he didn't smile often. I wonder if you can help build this school. We will pay you a salary, 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, 20,000 star coins a month, and provide food and accommodation. What do you think? After discussing it, the people in their school thought it would be better to start learning the game world as soon as possible, so they offered a high price to hire someone to build it. Unfortunately, The architects invited from the interstellar world could not complete it at all. Because they only know the interstellar set, and they don't even understand the materials when they return to ancient times. Yunxi was stunned at first, and then overjoyed. Are you asking me to build the school? Can I see the design drawings first? If she had seen the design drawings, she wouldn't even have to bother running the drawings herself. At that time, she could easily climb over the wall and come in to take classes. Of course, please, the man smiled and stretched out his hand, indicating the direction. By the way, you are really amazing. You are the top player in the construction skill list, right? I didn't expect that there are people in the game who study how to build a house. Yunxi's heart jumped. What the hell is the top player? How can an NPC like her be on the players' ranking list? She laughed dryly and quickly passed the topic over. When she came to the temporary workshop built by everyone, she could hear many people discussing something. When they saw them coming, the expressions of the people nearby were even more subtle. Ridiculous. A top student who graduated from the first university in the galaxy, can't build the house you want, and you actually found an outsider to come. You are insulting me. If you invite an unknown person to come, I will quit. The eyes of the people around whizzed here like knives, and then they all left angrily. Yunxi and the man kept smiling, pretending not to hear what they said. The man opened the renderings and held it up to show her. However, her smile froze on her face. Are you kidding me? On the blueprint, there are tall buildings, huge and clean French windows, spacious and comfortable small balconies, and... No. She couldn't bear to look at it anymore. Looking at the design again, the data on it was too. These tall buildings, they actually wanted to build 100 floors. She finally understood why they were in trouble. The man next to her explained, it is said that the floors in ancient times were not high, so in order to ensure safety, we dare not build as high as the interstellar, but 100 floors should be the level that can be achieved. Yunxi, destroy it. She is tired. She studied architecture in ancient times, and she can only build ordinary houses like those in ancient times, and she can't build 100-story skyscrapers. I'm sorry, I can't do it. With my current level, I can only build a 3-story house at most. The man also became worried, but when he heard her words, he suddenly had an idea. How about this? You build a 4-story house, are you sure? She raised her eyebrows. If you're sure, you can tell me your requirements, and I will draw a design for you when I go back. The man nodded. He had no choice. If the top god on the list couldn't do it, it meant that the technology level here could only reach this level. Other architects have been struggling here for so long, but there is no progress at all. There must be a training table, for training, and a classroom. After Yunxi recorded the man's requirements, she felt a headache. According to this person's requirements, the area required is not small. Fortunately, the place in the holographic world is large enough, otherwise I really don't know if it is enough. After an afternoon of measurement and calculation, and spending a few days, she finally drew the design drawings. With my ability, I can only do this much? Do you want to build it this way? After 3 days of discussion, the leaders of the school agreed to this plan. Yunxi was officially promoted from a mason to chief engineer. As the chief engineer, she refused the 5 social insurances and 1 housing fund and star coin rewards given by the school. I am not short of money. I come to play games just because I love ancient architecture, so you don't have to give me money. This is of course bullshit. She doesn't want to accept it because she is a fake player and a real NPC. She doesn't know how to collect this salary even if she wants to. The school had no choice but to increase her salary in the game to 100 silvers a month, and provide food and accommodation, and send her some architectural drawings from time to time. Of course, she finally refused the meals made by the junior chef hired by the school at a high price, and only accepted the drawings in silver. Because of the appearance of these drawings, her proficiency in architectural skills has risen wildly. Maybe after a while, she can upgrade. Yunxi was very satisfied, especially after she went to the forum. I actually found a job in the game. I used to pick up trash on the planet, earning only a few dozen star coins a month, but now I help build schools and earn 1,000 star coins a month. I will never go hungry again. Is the planet above a poor one? You can consider going to a military academy, where the salary is much higher. After all, their students are good at fighting, earn more money, and pay more. Yes. The salary of a university is higher than that of a primary or secondary school. After all, Primary and secondary school students are not yet adults, and there are only a few teachers who go out to fight monsters, and the money they earn is too little. She secretly sighed. Letting students earn money to support these employees, the person who came up with such a good idea is really amazing. However, just when she was about to shut down the system, she actually saw the ranking list. She was shocked and immediately opened it to take a look. Her name was really on the ranking list. Whether it was the combat power ranking list or the various skill ranking lists, she was on almost all of them, and she was ranked first on nearly half of the lists. What the previous HR said was right. The number 1 in the construction ranking was really her. Fortunately, after she finished the dungeon, she said it to hide her name under any circumstances, otherwise she would have been discovered by the players long ago. Chapter 53, Acquaintance. After more than 3 months of crazy construction, Yunxi led the construction team and barely built the school. In the end, only some details were left to be handled, such as greening. Good. When the school leaders came to inspect, they were very satisfied. They held her hand and shook it vigorously with excitement. You are worthy of being the top master. Let's cooperate next time if there is a chance. This is much better than they imagined. Their college is the first in the entire galaxy to complete the construction. After perfecting all the details, the school was very satisfied and gave Yunxi a large bonus, and then started their courses. Yunxi did not leave. She usually lived in the mountains and forests. During the day, she either went to school to take classes or went to dungeons to fight monsters. However, after listening for a few days, Yunxi realized that she could not understand it all. She only had modern knowledge now, and she had almost forgotten it after so many years. It was really difficult to keep up with the progress of the courses at the Interstellar University. It was like a modern elementary school student going directly to college calculus, which was very unfriendly to her. After listening to most of the class, she still couldn't understand the knowledge in the class. Yunxi ran out along the beam of the classroom, ready to find a primary school to lay the foundation. However, it was just a coincidence. Just as she ran out, she saw a man passing by. The man was wearing a well-fitting outfit and looked very imposing. Isn't this the man who was lining up outside the dungeon before? The two met head-on and looked at each other for 2 seconds. Then, they moved at the same time. One went forward and the other retreated. I know you, what are you doing here? The man's face suddenly became serious, and he stretched out his hands to grab her. However, Yunxi, who was disguised, would not believe this nonsense. She was covered with a large cloak, her face was also covered, and she even sprayed a strong perfume, so she was naturally not afraid of being discovered. With a light snort, she quickly avoided the man's attack, picked up the flower pot next to her, and threw it at the man. Although she only blocked the man for a moment, she took the opportunity to quickly leap out and ran out of the school. However, the man's reaction was also very fast, and he kept chasing after her but. Fortunately, Yunxi was very familiar with the mountains and forests here. After a long circle in the mountains, he successfully got rid of the man. Yunxi panted and lay in the cave like a salted fish, limp. It was really too tired. None of the players she met before were as strong as this man. It seemed that she underestimated these players. She still had to practice madly. However, what she didn't know was that the man at this time also thought so. The strong man in the real world entered the game. According to the intensity of the game cabin scan, his physical fitness was top-notch among the players. But he didn't expect to meet someone stronger than him this time. He really lacked exercise. And the defense in the military academy was too poor. Although in the game, the professor would not tell some particularly confidential things, but he couldn't let outsiders come and go freely like at home. If he hadn't been specially hired to train students, no one would have noticed that someone had sneaked in. Yunxi didn't go far after all. Because after coming out of the copy, in the opposite direction of the first military academy in the galaxy, about 1 kilometer straight, there was actually another school. It was a primary school. It was like a pillow for a sleepy person. In order to master the basic knowledge, she did not choose courses like she did in the military academy, but studied them all seriously. But although she planned well, her body was not made of iron. She went to class during the day and fought monsters at night. She began to feel sleepy all the time. That day, she played the dungeon until the early hours of the morning, yawned, dragged her legs like lead, and walked out slowly. The crazy practice and study day and night made her extremely tired, but when she heard a familiar voice, She suddenly shuddered. She was completely awake. I'm going to rest. What about you? Yunxi shuddered. Isn't this the voice of her apprentice, Shen-san? She immediately looked around and soon found that Shen-san was standing not far away, with his back to her, talking to someone unknown. Her heart jumped suddenly, tightened the cloth on her face, pulled down the hood of her cloak, and wore it more tightly, and then hurriedly took a detour to leave. Other players didn't know she was an NPC, but Shen-san couldn't have been unaware. If he found out that an NPC like her actually came to play a dungeon, it would definitely arouse his suspicion. She didn't want to fall. However, her thief-like whereabouts still attracted the attention of the people behind her. Haha. Brother Shen-san, look at that player. He's so strange. Why is he wearing all black? So mysterious. Shen-san subconsciously turned his head to look, but only saw a familiar back turning the corner and disappearing. Strange. That person looks a little familiar. Has he seen him somewhere before? And at this moment, at the corner, Yunxi didn't continue to move forward, but covered her heart that was about to jump out and calmed her breathing. Shen-san is here. She has to leave too. Fortunately, her current level is over 40 and close to level 50, and she can't get much experience and equipment by playing a dungeon, otherwise she really can't bear to leave. The next day, Yunxi resumed her normal routine, as if she was a real elementary school student, attending classes at school during the day and going back to rest at night. After school that day, she walked out of the school slowly amid the sound of bells. However, not long after she left the school gate and turned the corner, she saw a familiar figure. The two looked at each other in surprise. Master, Shen-san came up to her in surprise and joy. Why are you here? Yunxi was speechless. Did this kid go to play a dungeon? Why did he suddenly appear at the elementary school? Actually I came out to look for food. What about you? She barely found an excuse to cover it up. Fortunately, Shen-san didn't see her coming out of the school gate, otherwise he would have flipped over on the spot. I came to see my brother, but I didn't expect to see you here. It's great. Shen-san was very excited. My cooking skills have improved a lot now. I have to thank you for your teaching. Yunxi secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and her face returned to normal. This is also because you are diligent enough, otherwise it would be useless for me to teach you. Master, it's time for dinner. I will cook dinner for you later. Please give me some advice. Shen-san smiled. What do you want to eat? I can cook anything. The two walked and looked for ingredients, mushrooms and wild vegetables on the ground, fish and shrimp in the river, etc. Seeing those fresh and plump ingredients, Shen-san picked them all up. There was no kitchen, so the two cleared a piece of open space on the spot and lit a fire. Compared with Yunxi who ate dry food outside, Shen-san lived a much more refined life, with all kinds of pots, pans, and seasonings. While he was busy, she took the opportunity to open the cooking rankings and took a look. As expected, she was the first. But because it was hidden, no one knew what level she was at. The second-ranked chef also had his rank and name hidden. The third and the following were junior chefs, but from the 3rd to the 100th place, no one saw the name of her own apprentice. Yunxi. She should think carefully about how to encourage her apprentice later. Chapter 54 Being Carried Up. Just when Yunxi's mind was already wandering, a fragrance floated from the side. She came back to her senses, sniffed lightly, and nodded secretly. Regardless of how the dishes were cooked, at least the fragrance was already in good shape. Master, it's done. Shen-san took her to a rattan chair and put a cushion on it so that she wouldn't feel uncomfortable sitting. Please sit here, seeing that he even had a table and chair, and it looked so exquisite. Yunxi thought of herself eating dry biscuits when she went out, and at most roasting some rabbits, and her emotions suddenly became complicated. This little life is much more exquisite than hers. Master, please try it. Am I cooking much better now? Shen-san greeted her with a warm face. The dishes on the table were not complicated, they were all simple home-cooked dishes. After all, Yunxi didn't know many hard dishes at that time, and the only dishes she could teach her apprentice were home-cooked dishes. She took a look at the dishes on the table and took the lead in serving herself a bowl of soup. The milky white Crucian carp and tofu soup looks very tempting, and it also exudes bursts of fragrance. After taking a sip, the soup is delicious and rich, the tofu is soft, and the fish meat is tender and fragrant after absorbing the taste of the soup. Yunxi picked up other dishes and nodded secretly while eating. These dishes are all blue quality, which means that his apprentice has reached the level of an intermediate chef. Thinking of the second place he saw when he opened the ranking list, it seems that the person who hid his name is his apprentice. Chen San, it seems that you have practiced hard after returning. You have cooked these dishes very well. Lu Yunxi was full and praised with satisfaction. Master, I'm glad you like it. If you are not in a hurry to leave, I will cook for you every day in the future. Unlike the calmness before, Shen San's face was full of joy at this time. For him, being praised by the master makes him happier than being liked by others. Maybe it's because the master is the one who let him in. Hearing this, Lu Yunxi was very moved, but still rejected his kindness. If she encounters a wild boss or a dungeon with Shen San here, how can she fight? She will have to pretend to be an ordinary NPC and watch silently from the side. He thought for a while and said nothing more. The next day, Lu Yunxi did not rush to leave immediately. Instead, she went to record all the books in the school during the day and put them into the space before finding her own apprentice. After all, Shen San was her apprentice. When she was playing around, she also learned a lot of new dishes, and even a lot of very special dishes, and she could teach him. It's impossible to accept an apprentice and then leave him there without caring, right, Shen San? I have taught you all the dishes I learned recently, and you have memorized the key points yourself. The rest depends on you to practice. Lu Yunxi repeated what she said when she said goodbye before, and was about to leave with a package on her back. However, the next second, Shen San suddenly called her and opened his backpack to look for something. Master, wait a minute, Lu Yunxi secretly guessed. Could it be that the disciple realized that her master was a great master, so he prepared food for her to eat on the way? However, the next second, the disciple appeared in front of her with ease, empty-handed. With nothing in his hands? Disciple, what are you doing? She asked suspiciously. Master, aren't you going out to find ingredients? I'll go with you. Finding delicious food is really a big deal in life. And I can also cook for you on the way, so you don't have to do it yourself. Shen San smiled. I have explained everything, let's go. She looked at him with a subtle expression, but finally did not refuse. After all, there was nothing wrong with what he said, and she had no reason to refuse. She could only wait and find a way to get rid of him later. However, a few days later, she gave up the idea of getting rid of the disciple. When the master and disciple were together, they actually formed a team by default. She would also gain experience from the monsters that the disciple solved on the way. It was amazing. From then on, Lu Yunxi lived a life where she watched the scenery while her apprentice fought monsters, cooked and washed dishes. What a good apprentice it is to have an apprentice who can help her upgrade and provide her with food, clothing, housing and transportation without having to do it herself. Now the look in her eyes when she looks at her own apprentice is full of love. However, a leisurely life is always so short, and accidents always come suddenly. Lu Yunxi tried to find a comfortable position for herself, but being pressed and carried on someone's shoulders was not comfortable at all. The man who was carrying her had a little flesh on his shoulders and was not soft enough, which got stuck in her stomach. In addition, the man kept running, and she was constantly shaking, which made her feel like vomiting. Master! Put my master down. Shen San followed behind the man with angry eyes. Lu Yunxi barely raised her head and saw her apprentice chasing her closely. She swallowed hard to avoid vomiting when she spoke. Then she shouted with all her might, Chen San, go. Don't come looking for me. I will be fine. After shouting this, she dared not say anything else, for fear that she would vomit, and secretly prayed that her apprentice would not come to save her. After all, Shen San was here, and it would be inconvenient for her to take action. Coincidentally, just as Lu Yunxi finished shouting, the man quickly jumped over the mountains, while Shen San was stopped by the steep cliff. At present, his Qinggong was not enough for him to jump such a long distance. He could only shout with all his strength, Master, you wait for me. I will definitely save you. This voice kept echoing in the mountains and echoed in her ears for a long time. Lu Yunxi twitched her eyes, but soon turned her attention to the man carrying her. This man's skills were not ordinary. The level difference between Shen San and her was only about 10 levels, but Shen San couldn't cross the cliff just now, while this man carried a person as big as her and jumped over it easily. She immediately used the detection technique, and found that the man in front of her was already level 63. He was actually a high-level master. At this time, Lu Yunxi had just reached level 50. The gap was more than 10 levels. It seemed that she would have a hard battle later. Lu Yunxi's eyes sank, and her consciousness sank into space. She frantically searched and used all the toxins from various plants and trees she got in the mountains. These toxins were all toxins that paralyzed people's bodies or caused hallucinations, and they were not fatal. She had never encountered a master over level 60 before, and she didn't know if these poisons would work on such a master later. She clenched her fists and moved her fingertips slightly. However, just when she was about to attack, the man suddenly stopped running and put her down. Yunxi, who was not tied up, immediately took 2 steps back with her hands and feet, maintaining a distance that could be used for attack or defense, and at the same time, her vigilance was raised to the highest level. However, to her surprise, the man did not mean to embarrass her, but asked her, "Girl, I see this set of clothes on you. Isn't this your clothes?" Yunxi's hands trembled slightly, and when she thought that this set of clothes was a set of clothes from the Misty Rain Palace, she suddenly had an idea. Could it be that the person in front of her was from the Misty Rain Palace? Yes, this is the clothes I picked up when I was fighting bandits. Do you know the owner of this clothes? Her eyes flashed, and then she looked up and made a curious look. Bandits? The man's expression changed slightly, and his face suddenly sank. Yes, I usually walk in the mountains and fields, looking for good ingredients. Who knew that one day when I passed a mountain, I was stopped by bandits? Yunxi lowered her head, and her expression could not be seen clearly. We fought with the bandits for a long time before we finally won. After that, we happened to find this set of clothes, so we changed the tattered clothes. The man nodded. Yes, after all, fighting does make it easy to tear clothes, so can you take me to the cave before? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55 Assessment. Yunxi finally took the man to the cave. Yes, it was the cave where she had been playing dungeons like crazy before. This set of clothes was indeed obtained during the dungeon. So is there any problem in bringing him here? Okay. In fact, she was also very curious. Is she the only pseudo-NPC in the whole world who can come in to play dungeons? Or can all NPCs come in to play dungeons? With doubts, she took the man to the bandit dungeon. It was still the same as before, with people coming and going, and players gathered in groups, making it very lively. He stood at the entrance of the cave and observed for a while, not knowing what he saw, and then took her in. Unlike when she entered, there was also light and bandits in the cave at this time, but she seemed to have walked into a real bandit cave. Several bandits were drinking and staggering, and some kept muttering drink. Keep drinking. Sitting in the middle was the bandit leader, surrounded by 2 bandit cotters, and the circles behind were ordinary bandits and minions. It really looked much more real than the copy where a group of bandits lined up neatly. The man approached them with a serious face, picked up a bandit cadre and shook him. Wake up. However, the bandits were immersed in a beautiful dream, and they didn't realize that the danger had come. The bandit cadre slapped the man away. His voice was a little unclear, but loud. Get out. I still want to drink. Quick. Bring the wine up. Yunxi looked at the man's face being slapped by the bandit, and couldn't help but twitch his eyes, lowered his head, and pretended not to see this scene. The man was slapped away, and he turned his face back expressionlessly, looked at the bandit in front of him quietly for a while, and suddenly laughed. After a round of punches and kicks, the bandits finally sobered up from their drunkenness. What a courage! How dare you break into us? The bandit leader sat on his exclusive high seat and looked at them with a heavy look in his eyes, but his bruised face and swollen appearance really didn't show any momentum. The battle broke out instantly after the bandit waved his hand. Yunxi. When she saw the bandits rushing towards them, she really didn't know what to say. The man was level 63, and the bandit leader was only level 35. Is this difference just a few dozen levels? This is the real difference between heaven and earth. Even she was worried about her life before, so she thought of using her spare toxins. But the bandits. After fighting so many times, doesn't she know their mediocre moves? Even except for the bandit leader who has moves to use, the others don't even have big moves that can be called moves. When fighting, they just chop and chop, and there is no other moves. Seeing that the bandits were about to rush to her, she was about to take out the bow and arrow, but she saw that the man with her stopped the bandits and knocked them over. After that, it was just a one-sided beating. Yunxi stood by, doing nothing, and even took the time to open the system panel and look through it. Then, she suddenly realized that the man would actually get some experience points for beating the bandits. The experience points he got from beating the bandits were much higher than those from the bandit dungeons she had fought. Looking at the slowly rising experience points, she was so happy. She didn't expect that after losing the experience pack of her apprentice, other NPCs would also be able to give her experience points for beating monsters. Teamwork is indeed the best way to go. I already know everything. I didn't expect that the menial disciple of our sect would be killed by them while walking outside. The man sighed solemnly, rummaged through the bandits' things, put away all the things in the sect, and threw the other gold, silver and jewelry to her. Yunxi took over several large boxes of gold, silver and jewelry in a daze, and the whole person was a little stunned. Speaking of which, girl, thank you so much for your help just now. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to find the missing disciple. The man packed up his things and turned to look at her. Our sect is always grateful for what you have done. Do you need my help? Yunxi was stunned for a long time before she came back to her senses. What did she need help with? Improving her martial arts skills was not something he could help with. After all, unlike players who repeatedly brushed dungeons, after NPCs defeated the bandits would never refresh again, so she couldn't come with a man to brush experience again. There's nothing I need help with. I'm already very satisfied if you give me all this gold. After thinking about it, she said. But the man didn't listen to this. No. You have helped our sect a lot, I can't be so perfunctory. The man thought to himself, what's the point of silver and treasure? For anyone who enters the ranks of masters, the most important thing in the future is martial arts, and silver is just something outside of the body. The girl's skills were pretty good. On the way, she desperately asked her apprentice not to come to save her. Her character was also good. So, do you want to join our sect? Since her character and martial arts were so excellent, it was natural to consider accepting her into their sect. Yunxi was shocked, and then overjoyed. Can it? It won't have any impact on you, right? If she took the back door, would it affect this man? Although she was very eager to join the sect, she didn't want to hurt others because of her own affairs. The man laughed. Of course not. When you arrive at the sect, you will still be tested. If you can't pass the test, even if I introduce you, you can't enter the sect. At this point, the man's face became serious. What I can do is take you to the sect assessment office. I will not provide you with other help. Yunxi nodded, expressing her understanding. I am already very satisfied that you are willing to take me to participate in the sect assessment. She had been looking for more than half a year outside, and she didn't find any trace of the sect. Half a month later, the man brought Yunxi to a large valley. In fact, the valleys in the game looked similar, and sometimes even she couldn't tell the location, but the man seemed to know it very well, and he was sure that this was the assessment place for the sect. Yunxi looked at the empty valley and fell silent. Just when her doubts were getting heavier, the man suddenly took out a sign. Seeing a flash of yellow light in front of her eyes, Yunxi immediately closed her eyes to avoid being stabbed. When she opened her eyes, she saw that the light in front of her had disappeared, and in front of them, a white-bearded old man appeared. The old man touched his beard, glanced at her, and his eyes were clear, as if he understood everything. Girl, just follow this examiner in, and they will tell you what to do later. The man nodded at her, and then he jumped and disappeared. Yunxi turned to look at the old man and asked tentatively, "This, examiner, how are you?" The old man glanced at her and nodded. "This girl, please follow me." After that, he took a step and entered a door. She was startled. When did the door appear? It was like a door that opened a different space, which made people feel very mysterious. Yunxi watched the old man disappear from the back and followed him carefully. After passing through the door, she saw a whole new world. There were also trees and lush trees outside, but the trees inside were already yellow, and the ground was full of fallen leaves. Chapter 56 Good Seedling. Yunxi followed the old man with a surprised expression, looking up at the surroundings. What is this place? The people of the sect are so powerful that they can even open up a new space. Isn't this too magical? It's like another world, even the time is different from the outside. It's still summer outside, but it's autumn here. A gust of cold wind blew, and Yunxi shrank her neck. This is not just the beginning of autumn, but late autumn is about to enter winter, right? The old man took her for dozens of meters and came to a bridge. This bridge is the kind of wooden bridge that often sees in horror movies and shakes violently, not a solid stone bridge. The dilapidated wooden bridge is built high in the sky, and you can see the bottomless clouds and fog below. The old man shook the rope, and the wooden bridge shook with it. He nodded, looked at her, and said seriously, "Little girl, this is the first level of the sect assessment. You just need to walk forward along this bridge. When you reach the end, shake the bell hanging there, and you will pass the assessment." Is there no fork in the road? No. The first level of the assessment tests your strength and wisdom. There are some dangerous creatures such as beasts, insects and snakes on the road. You have to find a way to defeat them. The old man shook his head, and then took out a strange sign from somewhere. You hold this sign. Once you encounter a danger that cannot be solved, crush it immediately. In this way, you will be teleported to the valley just now and will not lose your life. But once you crush the sign, it also means that you have failed the assessment. After the old man finished explaining, he looked at her deeply and disappeared on the spot. Only one sentence was left floating in the wind. Good luck. Yunxi glanced at the place where the old man disappeared, and then looked down at the sign with the 3 big characters Yan'an Palace engraved on it in his hand. He put away his things and then stepped onto the wooden bridge calmly. The wooden bridge was shaking violently, but fortunately there were ropes on both sides, so she could hold the ropes when she was unstable. Of course, she didn't use this method in the end. She walked fast and steadily, and after quickly crossing the wooden bridge, she came to a forest. Because many leaves were yellow and falling, the light was not blocked by the shade of the trees, but could be seen clearly. She thought about it, took off the bow and arrow on her back, and did not find another stick to explore the way, but walked forward directly. However, to her surprise, this forest, which was said to be very dangerous by the old man, did not find any danger after she walked for nearly a quarter of an hour. In this way, she sped up and even used the basic Qigong she learned, running all the way. At the same time, the old man who had left the assessment space was also rushing out. Of course, he would not stay in the valley stupidly and wait for the little girl to come out. As an elder of the sect, he had no idea how many newcomers he had assessed, and this first level had never changed. But the fastest person who could get out of the first level took at least a whole day. Most people even need 3 to 5 days to get out. Of course, more people gave up halfway. Anyway, the little girl will not come out for a long time, so let's eat something outside first. It's been a long time since I had a snack outside. The elder soon came to the city near the valley and strolled around the street market. Well, he had eaten at this mutton shop last time, and it tasted good. The best tasting buns in this bun shop are their cabbage buns. Oh? What kind of shop is this? This must be newly opened, right? The elder hummed a song in his heart, put his hands behind his back, and walked into the shop slowly. Waiter, bring up all the signature dishes of your shop, and some good wine. The waiter immediately came up happily and took him to the window seat. Okay, please sit here, sir. The elder nodded, sat and listened to the gossip around him while waiting for the dishes to come up. At the same time, he was thinking about what to eat for dinner. After he finished dinner, he would go back to the valley to take a look. By that time, with the speed of the little girl, she should also start to encounter danger. That's right, their assessment will not be so inhumane that they will encounter danger as soon as they enter. The first section of the road is relatively safe, and they will start to encounter danger when they walk to the middle. The danger will be greater as they go back. Just as the elder was calculating the time to go back, a fragrance floated out from the kitchen. The elder sniffed and became curious. What is this restaurant doing? It smells so good, the waiter explained cheerfully. Sir, our signature dishes here are rao jiamo and hula tang. We will serve you the dishes soon. Please wait. Almost not long after the waiter finished speaking, he went into the kitchen and brought out the old man's portion. The old man picked up the chopsticks and took a bite of the rao jiamo full of meat. The gravy dripped down, which was particularly delicious, and the hula tang tasted salty, fragrant and spicy, which made people more addicted the more they ate. Hiss. This taste is so refreshing. No wonder this restaurant has only been open for a short time, and there are so many customers. The old man was enjoying a bite of rao jiamo and a sip of soup, but when he looked down, he suddenly found that the badge on his waist was flashing a dazzling red light. He was shocked and rubbed his eyes in disbelief. He picked up the badge and looked at it carefully. After finding that it was really lit and not his illusion, he quickly ate what he ordered and hurried back to the valley. However, the portion of food given by this store was too large. He was so full that he couldn't run fast even if he wanted to. When he finally got to the valley, he saw the little girl who had just said goodbye to her sitting on the ground eating roasted rabbit. When she saw him coming, the little girl even greeted him. "Examiner, do you want to try it?" The elder was shocked. If the little girl was teleported out to save her life, the light emitted by the badge would be a very dim white light, but if he successfully passed the test and was teleported out, it would emit a very bright red light and would also be slightly hot. And he was sure that he was not mistaken. The little girl did pass the test successfully. But how could this be possible? As an elder, he took 2 days to come out when he just joined the sect. What about such a young girl? It's been less than an hour. The elder stood there, his hand touching his beard froze, and he felt that he was going to be stupid. Yunxi didn't know what he was thinking that he acquiesced, looked at his right hand touching his beard, thought about it, and stuffed the other half of the roasted rabbit into his left hand. The elder hadn't reacted yet, subconsciously took it and opened his mouth to bite, and then his eyes widened instantly. What kind of delicacy is this? He chewed and chewed, swallowed the tender and delicious rabbit meat in his mouth, and then came back to his senses, looked at the roasted rabbit in his hand, and said in disbelief, This, did you make this?" Yunxi nodded, and after the two of them finished eating this beautiful roasted rabbit, the elder completely regained his composure. Although he was still very incredible in his heart, he was sure that the waste card would not lie. After all, there has never been a mistake in so many years, and it is not likely that there will be a sudden mistake at this time, which means that the girl is really strong. Young people are formidable, the elder sighed while touching his beard, and a smile rose on his wrinkled old face. "Little girl, you did a good job and successfully passed our first test. Next is our second test. Follow me." Yunxi nodded, and the two ran wildly in the mountains. In order to better understand the ability of the little girl, the elder even increased his speed. However, no matter how he changed his speed, the little girl always followed closely and did not fall behind. Later, he even used 8 points of speed, but the little girl actually caught up. You know, those who can become elders of a sect are all masters of the Grandmaster level. Even if he is usually casual, there are few people in the world who can be his opponent. But the little girl can actually keep up with him during the assessment. It's a good seedling. Chapter 57, Kicking Trash. Have you ever learned martial arts before? The elder looked at the little girl following closely behind him, a little curious. Yunxi nodded. My father is a hunter and knows a little about archery, so I learned a little from my father. Suddenly, she changed the subject and asked, Senior, what happened just now? Why do we seem to be in another world? Is that a spell? The elder smiled mysteriously. This is not something you can know now. When you become an inner disciple, you can learn it. She nodded and suppressed her curiosity. It was not beyond her expectations. After all, this mysterious method was much more powerful than the moves she had learned before. If she taught someone casually, she would find it strange. The two were very fast, and it took about a quarter of an hour to reach the street market. It was the street market where the old man had just eaten raw GMO. Yunxi looked at this busy city and looked at the elder with questioning eyes. The elder nodded, affirming, Yes, you guessed it right. The second level is in this city. You have to work in the city for a full month. Of course, you can't do your job perfunctorily. At least you have to perform well to pass the test. If there is no problem, I will take you there now. If you regret it, it's not too late now. The elder looked serious. Yunxi only wanted to become stronger, so how could she regret it? Besides, it's just working for a month, it's not a difficult task. She immediately became serious and said, Sir, I will go with you now. The two hurried to the government office. The elder scanned the jobs posted and finally selected one for her. The job is chosen by me, is it okay? Yunxi nodded. Although it was a street sweeping job, it was also a special experience. Seeing her calm face, the elder was secretly satisfied. The second level mainly tests patience and attitude towards ordinary people. Those who learn martial arts are most afraid of those vicious guys. A ruthless person has powerful military force. Once he does evil outside, ordinary people will suffer. Therefore, those who enter the sect must not be those evil-minded guys. After Yunxi registered and received the job, the elder left. She was stunned for a while, and soon realized that it seemed that she had to rely on herself for food, clothing, housing and transportation in the future. The job of sweeping the streets does not include food and accommodation. She walked around outside, found it cheap and clean and to live in, and then started her work. The job of sweeping the streets is very boring, but also very peaceful. However, not long after, Yunxi took back the above words. She stood there, looking at the garbage scattered on the ground, and the smile on her face became more and more kind. She was used to sweeping the entire street clean, dividing it into several piles, and then pushing a cart to shovel all the garbage away. But today, she suddenly found that the garbage that she had swept into a pile was scattered by someone. What? Why do you say she is so sure that it was man-made? That's because the garbage here is all fruit cores and other things, which are very heavy and can't be blown away by the wind like paper. Yunxi held her chin and finally understood the situation the next day. The people who did these things were a group of naughty children. The naughty children saw the piles of garbage on the ground, and probably because their feet were itchy, they kicked them everywhere, and the garbage was scattered again. Since it was done by children, then she could only find their parents. After all, she couldn't beat the children herself. It was too dangerous for her to fight a group of LV-1s as a level 50. If they were not careful, they might lose their lives. However, the next day, before she could find them one by one, there was an adult who kicked around in the garbage like a naughty child. Yunxi watched expressionlessly. I saw this young man, who was about 20 or 30 years old, spit a big mouthful of phlegm on the ground, looked unhappy at the garbage, and kicked the garbage on the ground away. A group of children behind him also saw this scene, and their faces were even happier. Seeing that the naughty kids were about to kick the garbage, Yunxi felt angry and rushed forward, picked up the broom and beat the man. While beating him, she said, "You kick garbage everywhere, don't you know how hard it is for me to sweep the garbage? It makes me have to clean it again every day. You really deserve to be beaten." After that, she beat him a few times, and the sound sounded particularly loud. "Let me go. You stinky woman." The man struggled for a while, but couldn't escape from her palm. The group of naughty kids nearby saw this scene and were shocked. They all stepped back and stood far away, not daring to get close. "I thought who it was, kicking garbage here every day. It turned out to be you, stinky boy. If I catch you next time, it won't be so easy." After that, Yunxi stuffed a broom into the young man's hand, put her hands on her waist and commanded, "Sweep the street for me immediately. If you can't sweep it clean, you can't go home today." He stood there, holding the broom in his hand, and saw that Yunxi had no weapon in his hand, so he wanted to take the opportunity to resist. Seeing that the broom was about to hit Yunxi, the next second, Yunxi gently raised her hand and stopped him. The man tried his best, but the hand didn't move at all, and his heart tightened immediately. He had met a master. Yunxi sneered, pulled out the broom decisively, and spanked him hard again. This time the man didn't dare to mess around again, and he cried and begged for mercy in pain. Seeing him holding the broom and sweeping the floor honestly, Yunxi turned her head and looked at the children. "What? Are you his accomplices? Are you kicking garbage everywhere too?" She smiled gently at the children. The children shook their heads vigorously and ran away with pale faces. Yunxi snorted coldly and let them go this time. Next time if they come to play with garbage again, she will go to their house to find their parents and let them clean up their butts. However, this time she got angry and scared the children, and no one dared to kick garbage everywhere anymore. The days passed as she swept the streets every day. One day, she suddenly received a letter. It was a letter from her apprentice. Shen-san was very worried and asked her where she was now. Was she safe? How many people should she take to rescue her and other questions? Fortunately, this is actually a game world, and the letter is absolutely safe. If it were really in ancient times, who would have gotten the letter? She thought about it for a while, but in the end she didn't tell him her specific address, but simply said that she was safe now and was working in a certain city, and asked him to practice cooking at home and not waste time. She also cooked a few dishes and sent them over. After receiving the letter, Shen-san was relieved and replied that he was a little busy recently and would come to see her after a while. Yunxi didn't take it to heart and continued to live her life as a sweeper. This day she went out to sweep the street as usual, but when she walked to the end of the street, she suddenly saw a beggar. She was a little surprised. It was the first time she saw a beggar on the street after being here for nearly half a month. It turned out that there were beggars in the city. She glanced at it and didn't take it seriously, and continued to sweep the street. When she finished cleaning and was about to leave, she turned the corner and saw two children approaching the beggar and carefully gave the cakes in their hands to the beggar. Chapter 58 Entering the Sect. The beggar saw the cake and shook his head, as if he rejected them. But the two children still stuffed the cake in their hands into his arms seriously, and then ran away. Yunxi glanced at the beggar with his head down, didn't care about it, and went home directly. However, the second and third day, in the same place, Yunxi saw the same scene again. She was curious and followed the two kind children back to their home. When she saw their home, she was stunned. Unlike what she imagined, the place where the two children lived was not a particularly good place, but a very remote and small house. She originally thought that the two children must be very rich, so they would send food to beggars every day. Who knows? Looking at the old and bitter face of the woman in the room, the only two cakes on the table were divided into 3 pieces, carefully placed in the bowls of the 3 people, and then served with soup cooked with wild vegetables, and that was a dinner. It can be imagined that the cakes sent to the beggars were quite important in this family. Yunxi frowned slightly and left silently. The next day, in a remote alley. Stop! The two children were frightened by the sudden voice, but when they saw that it was a girl, they relaxed a little, but still stepped back vigilantly. Who are you? Why are you stopping us? One of the older boys took a breath and tried to pretend to be serious. I see you go to deliver food to the beggars over there every day. Does your mother know? Does she agree? Yunxi paused for a while, thinking of the kind woman who helped to pick up the garbage bit by bit when the cart accidentally rotted, and suddenly asked. The two children suddenly glared at her. Of course mother knows. It was mother who made it specially for us to deliver it to uncle. Yunxi frowned. She could see that the two children were not lying. The woman's family was so difficult, but she was still kind enough to help beggars. There are such kind people in this world. After a long while, she still persuaded them. I know you have good intentions, but the beggar has hands and feet. He can find a job and live by himself. You don't need to worry so much. Your family is in trouble. However, to her surprise, the two children changed their faces in an instant, and one of them was even louder, with an ugly expression. What do you know? If it weren't for that uncle, my brother and I would have died long ago. And he can't work at all, otherwise there wouldn't be. Halfway through, the two children started to cry. Yunxi was a little embarrassed. Don't cry. She actually made the two children cry, which was a headache. After a long while, she finally coaxed the two children and figured out why they came to give food to the beggar every day. When the two children went out to play, it was generally safe in the city, but that day they were knocked unconscious and taken away in a carriage. Fortunately, a kind-hearted person passing by saw this scene and immediately stepped forward to stop him, but one hand could not beat 4 punches, and he was quickly defeated. But the kind-hearted man was a persistent person. He endured the pain and continued to run after the carriage, shouting to the people around him to help save people. However, the people around him either didn't believe it or didn't dare to do it. In the end, he was the only one chasing the carriage. When he finally ran to the suburbs, the kind-hearted man caught up with the carriage. Of course, this was actually deliberately let him catch up with the beggars. They had heard the voices of help. The beggars are catching people, all the way behind, and they had long been resentful of the kind-hearted man. This time in the deep mountains and old forests, the beggars were ruthless and used poison directly. The kind-hearted man fought with the beggars with all his strength. Every time he grabbed one person tightly and beat him, knocking the person unconscious, he would change people to beat. In this way, after all the beggars were knocked unconscious, the kind-hearted man himself was covered with wounds. He used his last bit of strength to untie the rope of one of the children in the carriage, and then he fainted completely. The children in the carriage were saved. But after returning, the kind-hearted man lost his job because of the poisoning. His legs and feet were stiff and it was difficult for him to move. The kind-hearted man was the beggar, and the two children were the two children that the kind-hearted man helped to save. After hearing this story, Yunxi fell silent. No wonder they had to send food to the beggar no matter what. After all, it was a life-saving grace. If it were her, she would definitely do everything she could to repay him. Let me go with you to see that night. I know some simple medical skills. See if I can help. Really? Do you really know medical skills? The two children who were originally vigilant heard this and were immediately surprised and happy. They pulled her to the beggar with enthusiasm. Only then did she realize that the beggar was really unable to move his whole body, and only his eyeballs could move. She thought for a while, did not take the pulse, and directly used a blood recovery skill. The skills that Yunxi taught her before, after learning the advanced level, can not only restore blood, but also remove most debuffs, such as certain toxins, dizziness, etc. Fortunately, after she used her skills, the beggar's poison was actually dispelled. He recovered completely. It's just that he had been lying down before and hadn't moved his hands and feet, so he felt a little weak for a while. The beggar was moved and patted his chest. "Thank you, girl, for saving me. I'm Zhang Wu. If you need my help in the future, just tell me. I won't say no. Don't thank me. It's these children who want to help you. You still have to thank them." Zhang Wu looked at the children again. "Thank you too." After Zhang Wu's matter was over, a few days later, Lu Yunxi's 1-month period was up. The elder suddenly appeared in front of her and smiled with satisfaction. Well done. He had actually been secretly observing her performance these days. When encountering things, she was not arrogant or impatient, and handled them calmly. She was also enthusiastic, friendly and helpful. Whether it was her character or her character, she had met their requirements. Next is the third task. Since the third level is a team task, but you are alone now, your task will be changed to a single-player task. To ensure fairness, the difficulty will be reduced by 1 level. The elder placed a box in front of her. "Take a draw." Lu Yunxi drew one at random and found that it was a task to hunt wild rabbits. It was too easy. In less than a quarter of an hour, she went to the mountains for a walk and caught the wild rabbits she needed. This time the elder had expected it and did not go somewhere else to play, but waited directly on the spot. Many people who have just entered the sect are still newcomers who do not know any martial arts. It takes most of the day to catch a wild rabbit, but with a girl's martial arts value, the task she drew was too easy for her. "Okay. Let's go. Next, I will take you to the sect to become my disciple. Before that, you should pack your things." The elder stroked his beard and nodded with satisfaction. "After entering the sect, you will not be able to come out for a short time, so buy more things you need. I'll give you an hour to prepare. After 1 hour, you wait for me at the city gate. The most important thing is that he has to buy more food to bring back, otherwise he will have to eat in the cafeteria every day when he returns to the sect." Chapter 59 Upgrade. Lu Yunxi stood at the seaside, and saw the red light flashing on the waist card in the elder's hand, and a gate appeared in front of her. The two walked in together. Unlike what she imagined, there was no doorplate with the words Yanyu Palace written on it. At a glance, there were only continuous mountains and clouds. If someone hadn't brought her in, she wouldn't have noticed that there was a sect inside even if she passed by. "This is our sect." The elder saw that she was very curious, so he took her around the sect. Our Yanyu Palace occupies 8 mountain tops, and the main hall is on the top of the mountain in the middle. It is usually the place where everyone holds meetings. There is also a library and a martial arts training ground, which are also on the mountainside of the mountain in the middle. As for other places, you just need to know them roughly. Lu Yunxi nodded, followed the elder to the mountain in the middle to take a look, and then was taken to a mountain in the front. This is where the menial disciples live. After registering and saying goodbye to the elder, she came to her residence. The residence of the menial disciples was not bad. It was a quadrangle, but 8 people lived in one quadrangle. When Lu Yunxi went in, the other disciples were not there, and she didn't know where they went. She opened the door of her room, cleaned up, and then began to inquire about the news of the sect. The disciples of Yanyu Palace are divided into 7 levels: menial disciples, outer disciples, outer door managers, inner disciples, elite inner disciples, inner door leaders, elders and palace masters. It is easy to distinguish them. Just look at the color of their clothes and you will know that from strong to weak, they are divided according to the colors of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. She is now an ordinary menial disciple. If she wants to upgrade, she must not only meet the requirements for force value, but also meet the requirements for contribution points. According to her current force value, she can be directly promoted to an inner disciple. However, she needs a lot of contribution points. She has to go to the task hall to do tasks and accumulate contribution points. Lu Yunxi did it right away. She locked the door and rushed directly into the task hall. There were many people in the task hall, and the walls were covered with task lists. To accept a task, you just had to peel off the list and hand it to the person sitting in the task hall to register. She scanned the densely packed tasks on the wall, trying to find a simple, efficient and high contribution point task. Unfortunately, after a round of scanning, the contribution points of menial disciples were only 5 points at most, and it was a long-term task, You had to help a certain elder clean up every week, and you only got 5 contribution points a month. It would be better to do something else, such as farming, washing vegetables, etc., which would give you 1 point a day. Lu Yunxi thought for a while, and finally took on the task of copying books. She originally wanted to read the secret manual of martial arts. This task could earn task points and meet her needs. Perfect. In this way, she took the task and began her career of copying books. However, she gave up this stupid task just after copying the first book. Because the books she copied were not the secret manuals of martial arts in the library, but some enlightenment books on her current mountain, such as the 1,000-character classic of the 100 family names. She had already learned it, so naturally she didn't want to copy it again. After all, it was hard to write fast with a brush, and if she was not careful, she would get a stain. The whole page had to be scrapped and recopied. Later, she changed her job to a cooking job in the canteen, and of course the work location was also on her own mountain. There are 2 types of cooking in the canteen. One is responsible for the free canteen. If you make enough steamed buns every day, you can get 1 point. The other is responsible for ordering dishes. If someone orders dishes, you will get contribution points. It's up to you what dishes you plan to make and how many contribution points you collect. Lu Yunxi nodded and chose the latter without hesitation. Isn't it just like opening a store by yourself? It's just that you don't have to pay rent. After that, she took root in the canteen. The outer disciples and menial disciples in the sect have no master. They will only be accepted as disciples when they enter the inner sect. Therefore, the outer disciples only go to the main hall to listen to the elders' lectures at the beginning of each month, and are busy doing tasks at other times. On the first day, she opened the door of the small canteen and saw people coming and going in the free large canteen next door. There was no one here, and she was a little envious. However, the second and third days were still the same. Lu Yunxi immediately became worried. Junior sister, give up. The people who lived in the same courtyard saw her and shook their heads helplessly. In our mountain, this small canteen has never been really used. They did tasks day and night for a month and couldn't earn a few contribution points. Who would be willing to use contribution points for such a place? It's just a meal. It doesn't matter what you eat. The most important thing is to upgrade. Lu Yunxi. After learning about her friend's ideas, she had to give up her job and find a job in farming again. There shouldn't be any problem with farming, right? Fortunately, this time it finally stabilized. After half a month of non-stop work, she finally collected enough contribution points for upgrading and successfully became an outer disciple. There are more tasks in the outer disciples task hall, and the difficulty is also higher, but the contribution points are also much more, and there are even hunting tasks. Seeing such a task, Lu Yunxi was so moved that she almost burst into tears. Hunting is indeed the best. After hunting rabbits for a few days, she successfully became an outer sect manager. In this way, with her crazy leveling, she finally succeeded in becoming an ordinary inner sect disciple. And when she didn't know, a legend was quietly spreading in the sect. Have you heard about it? We have a person who has been promoted to an inner sect disciple in less than a month. Is it the one called Lu Yunxi? I heard about it. What a great person. Oh, is this the world of geniuses? I have been in the outer sect for 5 years, and I still can't upgrade. Lu Yunxi could hear people praising herself wherever she went these days. She was a little embarrassed at first, but she got used to it after hearing it so many times. Soon, her news gradually died down, and new news began to spread in the sect inner gate competition. Yes, her master, the former sect examiner, stroked his beard and nodded. For the inner gate competition, the top 10 will receive rewards, and the rewards for the top 3 are even better. The rewards are different every year, but they are all very good without exception. Anyway, you, do your best. The inner gate competition includes all the disciples of the inner gate, including elite disciples and inner gate leaders. They are very strong, and it is basically impossible for her disciples to get the top 3. Lu Yunxi nodded, sent a lot of food to her master, and then returned to her room. Since becoming his disciple, the master has given her a lot of resources every month, including various purple-grade medicines, ingredients, etc. If it is difficult for the master to take out, it is the orange and above things. This time she must get this reward. After so long, she also found out how rare orange things are, not to mention gold quality things, which she has never heard of. In order to ensure fairness, All contestants are not allowed to wear sect uniforms, but must wear clothes without attributes. Because the sect uniforms of disciples of different levels have different bonuses, the inner sect leader is the strongest, and wearing the sect uniform, the ordinary inner sect disciples can't beat him together. Yunxi changed out of the sect uniform, put on the white-bordered uniform, and went directly to the beach next door. The location of Yunxi Palace is very good. One side is close to the sea, and the other side is close to the mountain. The level of the monsters in the shallow sea is generally around level 50-60, which is very difficult to fight, and the monsters in the deep sea are even more ferocious. Even her master doesn't dare to go to the deep sea. Yunxi naturally won't jump into the deep sea directly, but on the beach, she fought with a clam. The clam is a level 50 monster, just 2 levels lower than her. It has high defense, but moves very slowly. The advantage is that not only can you eat clam meat when you eat it, but sometimes pearls will explode inside. You have money, meat, experience, and you don't even need to go into the water. Is there a more suitable monster than this? Chapter 60 postponed. Yunxi started her crazy monster killing career again. At the same time, she would go to the library before going to bed every day. There were many more books in the library than in the town before, and the content was much richer. She had long wanted to know how the space gate outside was made. A long time ago, the world was full of spiritual energy, and the ancestors stored the spiritual energy in their bodies. When she saw this paragraph, her face changed slightly. Sure enough, there were other places that recorded the events of the Yunxi era. The method of opening a space gate in the sect was also passed down from that time, but after the spiritual energy disappeared, it gradually became unusable. However, after the predecessors of the sect discovered the events of the Yunxi era, they were obsessed with research and finally developed a replacement method. That's right, the current space gates, teleportation arrays, etc. were all developed by the predecessors of various sects, using internal force instead of spiritual energy to make things similar to the original ones. Unfortunately, internal force is not as useful as the original spiritual energy. In the era of cultivating immortals, it can be completed by just pinching a spell, but if internal force is used instead, the operation route is much more complicated. Basically, a method is compiled into a secret book for future generations to learn. Yunxi looked at the thin book Space Gate in her hand and fell into deep thought. Although Space Gate was compiled into a booklet, it actually only had a few pages in total. She took a look and understood what to do. But the bad thing is that this spell has limitations. Only masters of the master level can use the medium to open the space gate, while people of other levels do not have enough internal force and cannot open the space gate at all. The place connected to the space gate is the secret realm passed down from the era of cultivating immortals. After the end of the era of cultivating immortals, most of the secret realms disappeared, but a small part of the secret realms still exist and are occupied by major sects in the world, who simply use them as their base camps. This is the case with their Yunxi Palace. After learning Space Gate, she was a little disappointed. I can't use it even if I learn it. Just as she was about to go back to sleep, she suddenly paused. Huh? What is this? The next day, Yunxi started a new life. She sat on a chair during the day, killing monsters and reading books at the same time. Archery cannot be done at the same time, so she had to pick up the old fire stick and sit next to the clam, hitting it with one hand and reading a book with the other. Of course, doing two things at the same time is not good. If it weren't for the fact that the clam had no attack power at all, she might have been overturned long ago. Fortunately, the clam would never attack people, which allowed her to sit leisurely by the side. In just 2 days, she finished reading the Book of Skills on hand. She clapped her hands and got excited. She knew how to solve it. Mushroom Village. Village Chief, why did you suddenly call us all here? The villager stood in the audience, looking around. Fellow villagers, good news, the village chief stood on the stage, excited, with a red face, as if he was drunk. The villagers looked at him and said he was drunk. They were worried. Village chief, are you drunk? Go back and rest. Stop making trouble. What are you making trouble for? Who is drunk? The village chief waved his hands impatiently. I tell you, Yunxi has brought back news. It will be of great benefit to her whole village. After that, he counted the crowd again. Is there anyone who didn't come? Everyone came to listen. This is a big event in the village. After the villagers helped to count the people, the village chief calmed down a little. Everyone in the village should have heard about the academy. After entering the academy, you can learn Kung Fu, but it is difficult to enter the academy. Lu Girl found 2 books of Kung Fu for us. Before the villagers came to their senses, they saw the village chief raised his hand and shouted, "In the future, our village will also have Kung Fu." The people below gradually came to their senses and cheered. "Village chief, can all of us learn?" When everyone gradually calmed down, someone asked. "Not really, this technique has limitations, and those who are extremely evil cannot learn it," the village chief explained briefly. "I will put the book in the ancestral hall, and then everyone will go in and sense it, and the whole village will learn it together." After hearing this, many people did not take it to heart. What is it that extremely evil people cannot learn? How can a book tell whether they are good or evil? However, in the book that Lu Yunxi found in the sect some time ago, such a situation was mentioned. You can use internal force to set a ban on a secret book. Once the person who comes to learn has malicious intentions, he cannot touch the book, and once he wants to destroy the book, it will be even worse, and the attack will rebound to the attacker. It's just that the people in Mushroom Village are simple and honest, and no one has triggered this ban. The reason why she set this thing is to prevent herself from being struck by lightning in the future, like the senior that I said. A month later, the atmosphere in the village has become better. Every household can eat meat every day, and occasionally drink a little wine. This life, even gods will not change. Thanks to SYNOPSIS, if she hadn't taught us the technique, we wouldn't be able to eat meat every day. Why don't we send something to SYNOPSIS? Now that we have more meat, we can make some meat jerky or something. I heard that applying honey on meat tastes great. I'll get some salted duck eggs, she loves them. Several women took action. SYNOPSIS really helped a lot. With this technique, everyone in their village is much safer, no longer afraid of someone making trouble or being robbed when going out. After seeing their actions, the young people in the village also had ideas. Lu Yunxi didn't know that the villagers were going to send her something. At this time, she was standing in the lobby of the main hall, listening to the people on the stage. At first, she didn't care what the people on the stage said, until, "The inner door competition will be postponed." When these words came out, it was like thunder ringing in her ears. She was shocked. Why was it postponed suddenly? The man above had a cold expression and spoke in a low voice. "When our forest continent is in danger, everyone must mobilize. Disciples below the ordinary inner disciples must stay in the sect, and everyone above the elite level must go out to protect our homeland." Lu Yunxi was stunned for a moment, and didn't know how she got back to the room. Before she could finish her days, she suddenly saw her master, who was always busy eating and drinking. He was rarely serious. "Disciple, you stay in the sect, be careful about everything, don't run around, it's going to be dangerous soon." "Master, what kind of danger is it that makes you so nervous?" Even her salted master was so nervous. Could it be something particularly scary? The master sighed. "It's the beast tide that happens every few years. The beasts in the beast tide are very wild, as if they have lost consciousness and are running around like crazy. It's very scary." All elite disciples, you inner disciples, are basically the first line of defense of the sect. He thought for a while, and frantically took out a lot of equipment from his arms. "Put on these equipment and protect yourself." Lu Yunxi looked at the table full of equipment and was shocked. All of them were orange quality equipment. Chapter 61, Willpower. "Stop it, everyone, stop it." The eldest brother stood in the front, holding a sword and roaring with great momentum. The disciples behind him also took action. They killed all the crazy beasts that rushed to the edge of the sector. However, although everyone seemed to be very imposing, the battle had lasted for a whole day. Momentum was only a superficial thing. In fact, no one dared to relax, for fear that the people around them would relax. Especially the inner disciples, their muscles were tense. In the front, except for the eldest brother, the only master-level expert, the rest were the inner disciples. Because their number was far less than that of the outer disciples, even if they were very strong, they had been concentrating their attention for a whole day, and now everyone was very tense. After finally finishing this wave of beasts, Lu Yunxi glanced at the eldest brother of level 80 above his head not far away, turned his hands stiffly, and relaxed a little. Fortunately, the eldest brother among the sect leaders stayed, otherwise only ordinary inner disciples were here, and their sect might have been broken through by the beasts long ago. "Brothers and sisters, come and eat." Several errant disciples came trotting over with steamed buns, and regardless of their sweaty foreheads, they handed the buns to them one by one. Lu Yunxi touched his stomach and realized that he was hungry. The wild beasts kept rushing over before, and he had no time to think about whether he was hungry or not. Now that the battle has come to an end and there are no wild beasts rushing over for the time being, everyone can take the opportunity to eat. Everyone, eat something and eat your fill. The eldest brother ran around the sect and sat down after making sure there was no danger. There will be no time to eat when the fight starts later. The other outer disciples brought up the spare sets of equipment in the sect and replaced the damaged equipment on the inner disciples. For a while, some were eating, some were changing clothes, and the area outside the sect looked busy and chaotic. Lu Yunxi was good at long-range attacks. She knocked down the beast from a distance. She was not injured, so she just cleared a piece of space and sat down. She picked up the steamed bun and took a bite. Ahem, the food in the free cafeteria was still so unpalatable. She choked and coughed, pounded her chest, and then barely swallowed a steamed bun that was so hard that it could hit people. Not only did it not have any bonus, it tasted bad, and the texture was also hard. It was simply not something that people could eat. She looked at the remaining half of the steamed bun in her hand, and her brows were tangled together. After a long while, she looked up at the errand disciples who were busy in front of the stove not far away, and fell into deep thought. The fire is so big, it's smoking, so scary. Quickly pull out the firewood, don't make it so big, don't pull out the firewood, everyone has to eat anyway. Pour the oil quickly, no. There is cold water in the pot, don't add oil so quickly. Crackling explosions sounded not far away, and the errand disciples were scared and screamed, and ran around. The eldest brother looked a little more serious and was amused by them. Don't worry. According to past experience, there should be 3 hours before the next beast tide arrives. You can take a good rest. Lu Yunxi paused. They're coming again? Then she shouldn't be lazy and cook some food. After all, the food made by her master cooking skills has a high HP and mana recovery. If the brothers can't hold on later, how can she stop the army alone? What's more, the beasts killed by her fellow disciples are also considered experience for her. After thinking for a while, she rolled up her sleeves and pulled away the busy errand disciples. I'll do it. The errand disciples were shocked, shaking their heads and waving their hands. Senior sister, you are already very tired protecting us outside. You don't need to worry about these chores anymore. Just take a good rest. The food I make can replenish blood. Can you? Oh, a group of people couldn't persuade Lu Yunxi, so they had to watch her cook. For convenience and speed, she didn't make very complicated things, but made meat buns and vegetable buns, so that she had everything to restore blood and mana. When she was boiling water, everyone watched carefully. When she was kneading the dough, everyone's faces were a little surprised. When she was making buns, everyone looked at the neat and beautiful buns, and their mouths opened wide. When the buns came out of the oven, a fragrance instantly wafted away. Whether it was the disciples lying on the ground or standing on the side watching, as soon as they smelled the smell, their tired minds suddenly soared. What's that smell? There's actually someone in our sect who can cook. So touching. A quick-handed person threw the buns to each other and took a bite of them regardless of the heat. The others suddenly came to their senses and hurriedly surrounded him. Don't wait for me. Are you still friends? Is it so delicious? I want to try it too. God, there is such a delicious thing in the world. I've decided that from now on, my favorite thing is buns. The group scrambled to eat the buns, filling their stomachs and restoring their health bars, looking more energetic. After eating and drinking, everyone laid down with their stomachs, ready to rest. There were many outer disciples, so they could take turns to rest, but some people stayed by the side to watch. Lu Yunxi fell into deep sleep. Boom boom, the inner disciples who were sleeping on the ground opened their eyes and stood up instantly, looking in the direction of the sound. I saw a large group of wild beasts with red eyes, running towards the sect like crazy, rolling up clouds of dust. Less than half an hour after falling asleep, another beast wave came. The eldest brother frowned so hard that he could kill a mosquito. How is this possible? The beast waves in the past were not so frequent, however, although they were surprised, everyone's hands were not slow. They each took a few buns and stood in their own area. With a bonus of the buns prepared by Lu Yunxi, this time the fight was not as tiring as before. Of course, it was not so tiring physically, but the mental fatigue was heavier. After all, they were fighting all the time and could not rest. At this time, Lu Yunxi was grateful that the master had got her an orange weapon before. The magic of this bow and arrow is that it does not need a quiver. As long as you pull up the bowstring, The arrows with light will condense by themselves, and the damage when they are shot is also very high, which is much better than the small wooden bow she had before. The weapons and suits have been upgraded, so she naturally did not suffer any injuries. And she didn't even need to eat buns. Just like that, after repelling wave after wave of beast waves, Yunxi suddenly discovered a problem. Debuff appeared on the system panel. The slightly bald girl, staying up late is extremely harmful to your hair. Working without sleep for more than 5 days will make you start to become bald. Go to bed early and get up early for good health. Yunxi's hands trembled slightly. She touched her hair, which never fell out, but found that there were really a lot more hairs in her hands. Oh, no! She screamed wildly in her heart. She was deeply hurt by the 996 in her previous life, and she felt the badness of crazy work again. But now, looking at the beasts rushing up, Yunxi was furious. Making her bald, looking for death. However, no matter how angry Yunxi was, it was useless. Even if dozens of outer disciples gathered together, they could not replace an inner disciple to resist these beasts. Each inner disciple was responsible for a large area, and the outer disciples also needed to clean up the mess behind. There was no one to help her and let her have some free time. Look at senior sister Lu, she is so strong. Others get more tired the more they fight, but she gets braver and braver. Senior sister Lu is not only strong in combat, but the food she cooks is also delicious. I wish I could be as good as senior sister Lu, huh? See why senior sister Lu suddenly stopped. Is she tired? Let's go and help. However, before the beasts could break through the defense line, Yunxi knocked them down in a few moves and turned her attention back to the system panel. Just now, she suddenly felt that it was much easier for her to fight monsters, and she didn't need to keep an eye on the beasts all the time. She suspected that she had upgraded and become stronger. Who knew that when she opened the system, she saw that she had an unfamiliar attribute, wish power. 118. What is wish power? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62 Crisis of Novus Village. Wow, I'm dying. Stop chasing me. A thin man covered his butt and ran in a weird posture, fearing that he would be bitten by the lion behind him. Run over here, there is a trap here, we will stop the tiger here later, remember to step over it. Someone on the tree yelled and pointed at the position on the ground frantically. The man being chased burst into tears. It's easy to say, but this lion is not a domesticated one. It will go wherever I tell it to go. I just ran 3 times and it didn't fall into the trap. The people hiding above also had a headache. It's not that they don't want to make a bigger trap, but the only one among them who learned how to make a trap can only make this big. Damn it. Why is there such a high-level guy in the Novus village? Could this guy be over level 30, more than that? I heard from my brother that he just left the village at level 10, and happened to run into level 31, but he didn't get eaten in one bite. At least he managed to hold on for a few minutes. Then this lion must be over level 40? What should we do? The players in the mushroom village turned pale, and they just felt that life was too difficult. Where are the NPCs? We can't deal with this wild boss. The NPCs should always have a way, right? The NPCs in the Novus village are either life-related or passers-by. There is no one who can fight. Didn't they say that the Novus village has protection? Why is there a wild boss here? A group of players who have not yet passed level 10 squatted on the trees, complaining bitterly. The players who were still being chased around were crying without tears, "Hurry up and save me." It was the players who came online later who couldn't stand it anymore and shouted to the people below, "Hurry up and get offline." The people being chased suddenly reacted and disappeared in an instant, crying and laughing. The ferocious lion seemed very confused. It tilted its head to look, sniffed, and then shook its tail and looked at the people on the tree. Fortunately, there were several particularly tall and strong trees in the village. Everyone climbed high, and the lion couldn't climb the tree, so there was no danger for the time being. Thinking of the huge amount of experience they could get by defeating the lion, the players who were temporarily safe in the tree also became restless and tried to squat on the tree to attack the lion. While the players were fighting wits and courage with the lion, the villagers were all crowded together in the newly built courtyard next to the ancestral hall. "Village chief, what should we do?" None of those adventurers are strong. How can they stop the intermediate lion? The village chief had a bitter look on his face, his beard was almost torn off, and he couldn't think of any good solution. Although he had heard of the beast tide a long time ago, there were usually some masters who could handle it, and few fish slipped through the net and ran in. Who would have thought that there would actually be one running here this time? The outside of the village can stop ordinary beasts, but it can't stop the mad beasts in this beast tide. Such a thing hasn't happened for hundreds of years. Why is he so unlucky? Seeing the distressed look of the village chief, the villagers gradually lowered their heads, and many of them rubbed their eyes and cried. Ancestors bless. My child is only 3 years old, please bless my child to be safe and sound. Husband. We will be husband and wife in the next life. If only Yunxi was here. Yunxi is so powerful, there must be a way. Hearing this, the village chief suddenly had an idea. He gritted his teeth and walked into the house. The newly built house next to the ancestral hall was used to display Yunxi. Of course, it was not the real Yunxi, but her statue. Although it was not made of pure gold, it was also gold-plated and looked shiny. That's right. In order to thank her, in addition to the dry goods sent by the women, the men also built a statue for her, a gold-plated statue. Everyone thought that if Yunxi saw it, she would definitely be very happy. Who knew that the beast tide began not long after it was built? Yunxi, please bless our village to be safe and sound. The village chief stood in front of the statue, as if he saw the girl standing in front of him again, and tears gradually appeared in his eyes. It was hard to tell what emotion he was in. He stood for a long time, with the incense in his hand inserted in front of the statue. Fortunately, Yunxi didn't know about their tricks, otherwise he would have been scared to death by them. Seeing the village chief's pious appearance, the other villagers also came forward, burned incense one by one, and prayed silently in their hearts. Yunxi, who had just finished fighting a wave of beasts, sneezed a few times, rubbed his nose, and suddenly saw that the wish value on the system panel rose sharply: 121, 123, 125, 150, and then it even jumped up without any regular pattern until it was close to 230. What exactly is the willpower value? Why did it rise suddenly? Was it because of killing monsters? She fell into deep thought. Then, when she was about to wait and observe while killing monsters, she suddenly found that the willpower value had risen again after a while. However, this time it rose much slower, jumping up one by one, as if the machine was stuck. Yunxi looked at it for a while, and her face became more confused. She was not killing monsters now, so the previous increase could be said to be a delay, but she had stopped to rest for so long, and it was still jumping up, which must have nothing to do with killing monsters. After thinking for a while, she still had no clue, so she turned off the system without hesitation and closed her eyes to sleep. Anyway, this willpower value sounded like something useless. There was a sound of ling. She was woken up by the system not long after she fell asleep. What's going on? System prompt: your hometown mushroom village is suffering. The villagers and new adventurers are praying to you, praying that you can help them. Do you want to activate the wish power skill? Yunxi looked at the wish power value that had exceeded 300, and secretly guessed, wish power, the power of wishes? Could it be that the villagers prayed in their hearts, so her wish power value could increase? However, this is not important. The point is that there is actually danger in the village. Even if she rushed over now, it would take several days to get to the village. And she couldn't leave the sect here. Frowning, she chose yes without hesitation, but nothing happened in front of her. She could only see that a new skill, wish power skill, in use, appeared in the skill panel under the column of the technique. I wonder if the villagers can survive safely? She was a little worried. But the continuous swarm of wild beasts soon interrupted her thoughts quick. Are there any players who haven't gone to the temple to burn incense? Go quickly. A player stood on a big tree in the center of the village and shouted loudly to the surroundings. Burning incense. Several people who had just come online were puzzled when they heard this. Yes, it's burning incense. I heard from the NPCs that there was a legend a long time ago that as long as enough people prayed, the dilemma could be successfully resolved and we might be saved, the player in the center of the village explained loudly. Everyone in the village heard what he said. Although they were half believing and half doubting, the players could not find a better way to deal with the increasing number of beasts on the ground, so they had to carefully swim over from the trees and enter the newly built courtyard of the villagers. However, unlike the villagers who looked pious, the players were more perfunctory. But as more and more players knew the news, they basically went in. However, at first the players were still perfunctory, but later they were also scared to death. There were more and more beasts outside, and they had no choice but to hide in the yard and pray frantically. Someone come to save them. They were average level 1 to 10 noobs, and they could not beat the mad beasts of level 40 or 50 outside. Bang, bang, several loud noises. The crowd gathered in the yard attracted the beasts. Just when the door of the courtyard was about to be knocked open by the beast outside, a bright white light flashed from the golden statue, and then a bubble-like thing slowly expanded. The beasts that had been surrounding the village were separated by the bubble and blocked out. The bubble grew bigger and bigger until it surrounded the entire village and even the farmland outside, and then it stopped expanding. Everyone stared at the beast that was blocked outside with wide eyes, and their eyes instantly turned red. Ancestor, it's not, Yunxi bless you. Chapter 63 Return Home. Yunxi and her fellow disciples were busy fighting monsters. Towards the end, she even forgot about the time. The battle lasted for more than a month before this wave of beasts finally ended. Even the eldest brother ignored his demeanor and lay directly on the ground, panting, looking much more tired than after running a marathon. This beast tide has lasted for more than a month. I am so tired. The other disciples were too lazy to move, either sitting or lying on the ground, looking exhausted. Usually, they would respond enthusiastically to the eldest brother and sister, but now they were full of indifference, as if they did not hear the eldest brother sigh, and slowly closed their eyes. They were so tired that they did not want to talk. Yunxi also felt a breathless fatigue, and did not bother to check the system, and fell asleep. Except for the beasts in the beast tide that could cross space, no outsiders could enter their sect. The outer disciples looked at them like this and became worried. Steward, should we carry them back to the room to sleep? A errant disciple looked at his senior brothers and sisters with a bit of heartache. The steward of the outer sect rolled his eyes. If you have the guts, carry them all back to the room. Although errant disciples don't have to fight, they are responsible for other chores such as cooking and mending clothes. He was also very tired. After saying that, he fell asleep. The few young disciples who were still barely awake looked at each other for a while, and then they were too lazy to care about them anymore, and just found an open space to lie down and fall asleep. And just when they didn't even have time to go back to the room and were busy catching up on sleep, not far from the sect, the palace master of the Misty Rain Palace led a group of people behind him and ran forward frantically. Quick! Let's hurry back. There are too few people left in the sect, and the severity of this beast tide is far beyond our expectations. Tears flashed in the palace master's eyes. She didn't dare to say anything more, lest she collapse on the spot. Normally, the beast tide only lasts for a week, and the inner disciples who stayed behind are more than enough to solve the problem, but things are far worse than expected. The beast tide lasted for a month. 3 weeks ago, she wanted to ask some people to go back to the sect to help, but they are the outermost line of defense on the continent. Everyone is responsible for a large area, and no one can leave. Now that the beast tide is over, no one cares about the wounds on their bodies and runs madly to the sect. Everyone's face is very solemn. According to the severity of this beast tide, it is a blessing from God that half of the people left behind in the sect can survive. The group ran wildly for about half an hour and finally reached the entrance of the sect. As soon as they entered the mountains of the sect, they saw the fellow disciples left behind in the sect lying on the ground in various postures. Ah! Someone screamed, and then quickly covered his mouth, tears streaming down. Others either cried silently, or retreated unconsciously, widened their eyes, or rushed forward, trying to find their acquaintances. Yunxi's master was no exception. He saw the disciple lying in the middle at a glance, and immediately rushed over, holding her shoulders with both hands and began to shake her hard. Disciple. My good disciple, you died so tragically. Yunxi was awakened by the sounds around her. The crying around was deafening, and even the dead would be awakened by them. She opened her eyes in confusion, and saw her master crying with snot and tears. She immediately woke up, pushed away the master who was holding her, and took a few steps back in disgust. Master, don't wipe your snot on me. The elder, whose eyes were blurred with tears, was stunned for a moment, and it took a long time before he took a few steps forward in shock. You are still alive. Yunxi was speechless. Of course I'm still alive, master. What are you thinking? Are you having a nightmare? I thought everyone left in the sect was dead. He wiped his tears. What do you mean everyone died? That's too unlucky. We are all alive and well." As soon as she said this, everyone who had just returned from outside looked over, their faces full of surprise, as if to say really. Yunxi twitched her eyes and was about to say something when she saw the other people who were sleeping gradually waking up. The people from the sect hugged them, their faces full of joy. "Puff, I'm going to die, don't hold me so tight, I can't breathe." The fellow disciples who had just fallen asleep almost couldn't breathe. This time the sect went out to resist the beast tide, and no one died. In the sect, everyone was so happy that they held a bonfire party for 3 days. Go home. Below the main hall, the disciples of the sect asked in unison. "That's right. This beast tide is too serious. Many fish that slipped through the net ran into the villages and towns. I asked you to go back to your hometowns to check. I was also afraid that your families would encounter this incident. If there are really wild beasts, you should solve them quickly." The palace master on the stage shouted, "Remember to come back early. There are still wild beasts in many places. You will have to go and sweep them when the time comes." Yunxi took the reward for cleaning up the beast tide and returned to her room. The reward was not much, after all, it was the silver paid by the Misty Rain Palace itself, but it was not a small amount. It was 50 silvers, plus the money given to her by the master privately, which added up to 100 silvers. After counting the rewards, she opened the system panel again and picked up the dried meat sent to her by the village and chewed it. Wow! She is actually level 67. Nearly a month of crazy liver is not in vain. From the early 50s to level 67, it has risen more than 10 levels in a row. Yunxi is very satisfied. Once you surpass level 70, you will be a true master. Only masters who have truly become masters can travel back and forth between the continents. Yes, there's more than one continent in the world. If you cross the boundless ocean, you can see that there are other continents in other places. It's just that ordinary people can't even cross the beach, let alone cross the dangerous deep sea. Yunxi took the specialties she bought and walked home excitedly. While she was on her way, in the interstellar world. "Third brother, you are really amazing. Do you know how much the salted duck eggs you made sold for?" Yunxi looked at the records in the light brain, and the smile on his face was about to break. The net profit in a month has reached hundreds of millions of star coins. Jinheng was very calm. The things his master taught him were very delicious. Natural food, cheap, and more delicious than those expensive restaurants outside. It would be strange if they didn't sell well. However, this was what his master taught her, and he couldn't use it to make money, but he didn't care about his master at all. But the master is just a bunch of data, not a real person, and he can't give her star coins. What should he do? After thinking about it for a day, he finally decided to go to the master in person to ask, "Master, the salted duck eggs you taught me to make are delicious. I made them and sold them, and earned a lot of money. I think this money should be given to you. What do you think?" Yunxi, who was on the road, received a letter. Looking at the words in the letter from the apprentice, she immediately laughed. It seems that the apprentice is doing a salted duck egg business in the real world. She became more and more convinced that the apprentice had a miserable life. He should be living in the kind of poorer planet that netizens said, living a life of 1 meal a day and not having a meal, and barely surviving by selling supplies in the game. Poor apprentice. With just the money from selling salted duck eggs, he said he made a lot of money. Yunxi thought for a while, and wrote a letter to reject his kindness, saying that she had money on her, and that everyone could make salted duck eggs, and they were not worth much at all. Shen-san received her letter, and naturally he would not listen to her. Salted duck eggs are a long-term business. He made so much money for himself. If he really listened to the master and didn't give him anything, he would be a black-hearted person. After much consideration, he decided to travel around the world, buy all the local specialties, and send them to his master. Chapter 64 Girlfriend 67 and level 10 is indeed strong. At that time, it took me several days to run the distance, but now I can finish it in less than a day. Looking up at the 3 big characters Mushroom Village on the plaque, Yunxi immediately used the detection technique. Mushroom Village, an ordinary little village. She smiled immediately. Mushroom Village, she is back. Village chief, uncles, aunts, grandparents, I'm back. She rushed into the village with excitement, but found that the village was empty. She stopped in a daze, and her excited voice gradually weakened. Looking around in a daze, she suddenly found that the outside of the village was actually wrapped in a layer of something like bubbles. She was startled and looked outside with wide eyes. When she came in from outside, she clearly didn't see this layer of bubbles. And when she was a child, there was no such thing in the village. Yunxi, you are back, the village chief's surprised voice brought her back to her senses. Yunxi came back to her senses in a daze. Oh, I'm back, you haven't eaten yet? You've lost so much weight. You must be very tired outside. Come to my house. I just made stewed meat at home. The village chief enthusiastically pulled her to his house. Yunxi subconsciously followed him for a while, and it took a while for her to come back to her senses and let go of her hand. Wait. Village chief, what's going on with the bubble outside? Where are the other people in the village? Where did they go? I didn't see them in the fields. Are you talking about the one outside? That one is still thanks to your blessing. The village chief looked at the bubble outside and gave her a satisfied look, as if he was looking at a big gold nugget. The beast tide was very serious some time ago. Several wild beasts came to our village. They were walking around the village like a hawk, scaring us to death. We had no choice but to pray that you could help us. Then, you really showed up. Suddenly a bubble appeared to help us stop the beast. I showed up. Yunxi was completely confused. What does it have to do with her? It was not until the village chief took her to the newly built temple in the village that she opened her mouth in disbelief. This is, she looked at the statue on it, and then looked at the village chief beside her. The village chief nodded and confirmed her guess. Yes, this is a gold-plated statue made in your image. It's a pity that our village doesn't have much money, otherwise we can make a pure gold statue, which will look better. Village chief, this won't work. How can you make such a thing for me? She was afraid that she would shorten her life. However, the village chief ignored her objection. No, if you hadn't saved us before, our village would have perished long ago, and we wouldn't have waited for you to come back. After arguing with the village chief for several days, there was no result. Yunxi had no choice but to meet with the villagers one by one, and then went to sweep the graves of her parents before returning to the sect. She walked around the village and got rid of the remaining beasts, and then left the town with peace of mind. It was night when we arrived in Jinzhou. It seemed that some kind of event was being held, and it looked very lively. The lights on the roadside were bright red, hanging in strings on the eaves, and the red light shone down, bringing a warm temperature. Yunxi walked around the street and asked someone at random, "Is there any event here? It's you, sister, why don't you add me?" The person being asked was about to answer, but when he saw her appearance, he was stunned, and then overjoyed. Yunxi realized that the person in front of him was the one he met in the preliminary round of the fishing competition. "Sister, you helped me a lot at that time. I have found several NPCs, but unfortunately I haven't decided to find one to become my apprentice." The super powerful hero told her about his progress with a happy face. Yunxi was silent for a moment, and then laughed dryly. "That's great, congratulations. You got what you wanted, haha." He blushed in embarrassment, and then suddenly thought of what she had just asked. "Miss, do you want to come to this lantern festival?" "Lantern festival? Yes, aren't there a lot of lanterns on the street?" "There is a riddle on each lantern. As long as you guess the correct answer, you can take the lantern away." Yunxi understood. No wonder there are so many strange lanterns on the street. At this moment, the super powerful hero suddenly froze. She glanced at his stupidly standing there, and thought to herself, did someone send a message suddenly? There's a private chat channel between players. But this kid is far inferior to her own apprentice. When her apprentice sends a message, she must be very careful to find something unnatural. Yunxi was about to turn around by herself when she heard someone scream next to her. She was startled and quickly turned her head to look at him. The super powerful hero scratched his hair and made it look like a mess. He screamed with a distressed look, "Oh my god. What should I do?" Seeing that there was no danger, she rolled her eyes. "What scares you so much? It's not a beast tide. It's terrible. If I can't solve it, I will definitely die," the super powerful hero said bitterly. "Today is actually my girlfriend's birthday. She said she will come online to find me later, but I haven't prepared a gift yet." Yunxi looked at the lanterns on the street and found that the lanterns in the middle were particularly beautiful. "Look, how about you give those lanterns to your girlfriend? Those. Aren't they the Lantern Kings?" The super powerful hero was surprised, and then lost. I just asked. Those lantern riddles are very difficult to guess. I can't get them at all. Don't talk about me. I heard that several big guys came today, but they didn't get those lanterns." He squatted on the ground dejectedly. Yunxi looked at the lanterns with exquisite workmanship and walked up. The super powerful hero was still squatting on the spot, until a beautiful lantern suddenly appeared in front of him. Then he suddenly raised his head. "Boss. You actually succeeded." He wanted to hug his thigh. "It's really good to have a boss to help." "Boss, are you going to give me the lantern?" "Woohoo. Boss, you are so kind." He was so moved that he was about to cry. "This lantern is so rare, I can't take your things for nothing." "Let me see." "It's okay, you take it, don't cry." Yunxi stuffed the lantern into his hand and turned away. However, the next second, she was stopped by the people behind her. A medicinal herb suddenly appeared in front of her. Yunxi looked at the medicinal herb with surprise in her eyes. It turned out to be an orange quality medicinal herb. "Boss, you helped me so much. What's this little medicinal herb? Anyway, I don't know how to make medicine at all. If it weren't for the fact that the orange quality is so rare, I wouldn't keep this thing at all." Unable to persuade him, she finally accepted the medicinal herb. But she also silently remembered the super powerful hero in her heart. Orange quality items are really rare. This is much more valuable than the lanterns she got before. Next time this guy needs help, she should help him more. Chapter 65 Early Promotion to Primary Level. Yunxi returned to the sect excitedly. She must make good use of this medicinal material. Previously, an orange quality fish allowed her to break through to the master chef level. This time, the orange quality medicinal material. In order to make better use of this medicinal material, she came to the sect's library. In addition to various exercises, the library also has many other books, such as how to build furniture and farming. She turned around in the library and found books on medicine. She read them one by one and then made a plan. Among the pharmaceutical recipes she saw, the highest level was a recipe that could cure all poisons, which reached orange quality. The largest amount was a mosquito repellent recipe, and one medicinal material could make a full 10 kilograms of mosquito repellent powder. Of course, although these medicines were all good, she finally chose a blue quality potion. An orange quality medicinal material only made a blue quality potion in the end. It was downgraded by 2 levels, which would be a pity for most people. Some people might even think she was crazy. But this potion actually has the same effect as the magic medicine that Misko gave her before. It is a potion that can improve the skill level. Of course, after all, it is a blue-grade medicine, so it is naturally not as good as the one Misko gave her. After taking the previous medicine, all skills will be upgraded by 1 level, while the medicine she is preparing to make now can only upgrade 1 potion by 1 level. Moreover, it is randomly upgraded from the skills you have. In other words, it's time to test your luck. Whether you are a European emperor or a non-European emperor depends on when you take the medicine. Yunxi memorized the prescription deeply in her heart, and then repeatedly simulated the production in her mind until she was very proficient in simulating it in her mind. Only then did she really start to work. According to the prediction in the book, she can only make 3 potions at most with this orange quality medicinal material. This is the situation with the best method and the best state. If it is a novice, the result will be even worse. But she only has this orange-grade medicinal material, and there is no room for practice. A failure will completely ruin it. But the above thoughts are only fleeting. A blue-grade potion is not enough to make her a senior pharmacist, so she is so restricted. Yunxi was busy making medicine and kept the door locked. She didn't know that the people from the sect had returned one after another. After the people from the sect returned, the elders held a day-long meeting in the house. The next day, the sect's instructions came down. All the inner disciples in the sect packed up and left the sect half a month later. The medicine cauldron in front of Yunxi was finally about to succeed. She stared at the slightly trembling medicine cauldron with her eyes, not missing a single detail. After a burst of crackling sounds, the medicine cauldron completely quieted down, leaving only bursts of medicinal fragrance. Yunxi stood up straight and leaned over. When she saw the round pills in the medicine cauldron that exuded bursts of medicinal fragrance, her eyes lit up. She actually made 5 pills. Better than the best-case scenario predicted in the book. She reached out and carefully put the 5 pills into the medicine bottle. Ding! Congratulations on becoming a master pharmacist. Not only did he successfully make the elixir, but the amount of medicine was more than he had imagined. and even his medicine-making skills were upgraded to a higher level. Killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The corners of Lu Yunxi's lips curled up. Why are you still here? Lu Yunxi looked at her master in confusion. Why am I gone? After that, she couldn't help rolling her eyes. I'm living well. That's not what I meant. The master found a cushion and sat down casually. The sect issued an order a few days ago that all inner disciples must go out for training. Didn't you know? Train. I'm afraid you are the only inner disciple in the sect who is still here. Thinking of this, the master seemed to think of something funny and laughed. Lu Yunxi didn't look at him, but was studying her skill panel. There were only 5 elixirs in total, and she wanted to maximize their value. If she ate them casually, what if she upgraded some piano, chess, calligraphy, or textiles, breeding and other skills that were still at the primary level? She would be sick to death. She pondered and prepared to upgrade all her skills to advanced levels before taking the elixir. A clang interrupted her thoughts. This is what I prepared for you. They are all for saving your life. You should keep them well. With your current skills, you can walk sideways in the mainland, but if you accidentally meet someone from the outside mainland, that may not be the case. So you should take it. Thank you, Master. Lu Yunxi looked at the pile of equipment and medicinal materials in front of her. Her eyes were shining. Although most of them were purple, when she was defeated, she could just throw them over to stop the enemy. After leaving the sect, Lu Yunxi didn't even pay attention to the direction. She just subconsciously lowered her head and walked straight, thinking about how to brush up her skills in her mind. Little girl, who? Lu Yunxi grabbed the hand of the person behind her and threw it away in an instant, trying to throw the person who suddenly patted her shoulder away. But the man behind her was also very skilled. He twisted his hands and broke free from the shackles. Are you okay? Sorry, I just saw you were about to hit the tree, so I pulled you back. She came back to her senses and looked at the thick tree in front of her. She said embarrassedly, I'm so sorry, I thought someone was robbing. Thank you for reminding me. She stopped talking halfway. What a coincidence. Isn't this an old acquaintance of hers? Wasn't she chased by this man when she sneaked into the academy to study before? He seemed to be a senior officer, and many people would salute him when they saw him. She felt a little nervous. Lu Yunxi clenched his fists in his sleeve secretly, thinking, calm down. He doesn't know who you are. He smiled indifferently. It's okay, just a reminder. After saying that, he was about to leave, but suddenly saw the grass in her hand. Are those wild vegetables in your hand? If you want to fill your stomach, it's better not to use wild vegetables. Now the city is open, everyone can go in. There are a lot of jobs inside, and one day's work is enough to have 2 meals in the restaurant. Fu Yi looked at her, guessing that this little girl might be from the Poor Star, and a touch of pity flashed in his eyes. Probably only the people of the Poor Star have not received the news of the opening of the city. After the city is opened, anyone who can leave the novice village can go there regardless of their level. Lu Yunxi paused, first smiled and thanked him for his kindness, and then explained, what I have in my hand is medicinal herbs. I am a pharmacist. I just picked them when I passed by. Pharmacists are good. Fu Yi twitched his eyes, and after a long while he reluctantly encouraged, study hard, and after becoming a junior pharmacist in the future, you can live a good life. We need junior pharmacists here, of course. This is all optimistic. The interstellar people who have therapeutic devices don't understand what pharmaceuticals are. So far, only the second-ranked boss has successfully upgraded to the junior level, and is now being fought over by major guilds. Although the first on the list is better than the second, he hid his name and level, probably because he didn't want to work for others. The others are still in the internship stage. Getting started in pharmaceutical manufacturing is very simple, just buy a medical book in the clinic, but upgrading is the most difficult, and he really doesn't think it will be a good start. Lu Yunxi was silent for a while, opened the forum to understand what was going on, and then looked at the crowd not far away. Chapter 66 The Tree. Not far away, many people gathered together and sat on the ground, each holding their own medicine cauldron, with a bitter face. What on earth is this book about? I don't understand anything, it's so difficult. How did the big guy who was promoted to the junior level do it? Why is it so difficult? Cut the root into 2/3, then add 3 drops of mulberry leaf juice, and then, Lu Yunxi stopped with interest, sat on a big rock next to her, and ate buns while watching them make medicine. Are you making medicine? What kind of medicine are you making? She asked curiously. Fu Yi saw it from the side, but did not stop them. Anyway, this is not a confidential matter, and they came in concealing their identities. The time given to these guys to make medicine is actually a special time for them to rest. Yes, we need medicine to restore health and mana when we go to the dungeon, but it's too expensive to buy it in the grocery store. The person sitting next to her complained with deep feeling. The medicine sold in the town can't replenish the health and mana bars. It's cheap, but sometimes you die before you can take the medicine. The medicine sold in the city is good enough, but it's too expensive. The money from the dungeon is not enough. Yunxi listened and nodded silently. In fact, their techniques were very unfamiliar. Whether it was the preparation and picking of the medicine, or the amount and time of putting it into the medicine cauldron, they were all wrong. Looking at their messy movements, she had an urge to go up and help them correct it. But she still held back. If she went up at this time, wouldn't it reveal that she could make medicine? Logically speaking, she should be at the same level as them, unless she admitted that she was the number one on the list. Thinking about the life surrounded by people every day, she shuddered and gave up. At this moment, two people suddenly walked out of a tree hole not far away. Yunxi was startled. A man covered in wounds walked out with the help of another person. The man covered in wounds was barely breathing and closed his eyes as soon as he walked out. The group of people who were sitting next to him and fiddling with the medicine cauldron immediately swarmed over Yunxi. He would have been almost dead if he hadn't died. Fortunately, Fuyi was a steady man and immediately rebuked them and asked them to move away to give him room to breathe. At this time, she saw that a lot of hemostatic herbs were stuffed into the mouth of the seriously injured man. She was speechless. Although she had heard that some people directly took hemostatic herbs to stop bleeding, in fact, the effect of doing so was very poor, about only 1% of the original effect of the medicine. The seriously injured man's mouth was wide open, and he was awakened by their commotion. He chewed hard for a few times and swallowed a pile of herbs that had not even been washed. However, his wounds did not improve significantly. After all, his injuries were too serious, and even if he ate a lot of herbs, they were only some of the lowest grade herbs. Seeing that the others went back to stuff herbs for him, he swallowed them all without refusing. Yunxi couldn't bear to watch it any longer, so she stepped forward and passed through a gap. She ignored the surprised looks of the people around her and tapped her fingers. A ray of light flashed. All the wounds on the man's body were restored to their original state. If it weren't for the blood on his clothes, he would have thought he was having a nightmare. You, little sister, you actually have recovery skills. The people around all widened their eyes and looked at her in disbelief. There were so many of them, and they went to dungeons every day, but they had never gotten even one recovery skill book. This little sister actually had it. Ms. Lu, I want to talk to you. Fuyi, who saw this scene, quickly pushed away the people who gathered together, and looked at her excitedly, as if he was looking at a piece of fat pork. After everyone else had gone far away, Fuyi finally expressed his thoughts. I want to ask you to help my team in the dungeon, okay? 3,000 star coins for the first month. You don't need to follow us all the time. You can go with us to open up the wasteland first. After the opening up, we can see whether we want to work together again. What do you think? It's not that he didn't want to give more, but holding so many star coins on a poor star is like a 3-year-old holding a gold brick. It's too dangerous. Yunxi was silent and closed her eyes in pain. Star coins? This is not something she can have. No, she shook her head and gritted her teeth. Money is not important to me. What's important is the game. Seeing Fuyi's confused expression, she changed the subject. I see that your team has so many people, so they shouldn't be very weak. How can you not play the dungeon? The dungeon of the bandits is quite easy to play, you don't know? It's all revealed in the forum. There is a new dungeon now, in the tree hole where they just came out. Fuyi was a little surprised. I rarely read the forum. Yunxi's heart skipped a beat and immediately opened the forum, seemingly reading it seriously. Fuyi explained to her, I found that this dungeon requires at least 2 people, and at most 100 people can go in at once, but the more people there are, the more monsters there are, and the stronger the monsters are, so I let the 2 strongest people go in to test it out. She just saw the result of the test. The seriously injured person was mainly responsible for resisting monsters, and the other one was responsible for output. Yunxi agreed without much consideration. If at least 2 people are needed to enter, she will have to find someone to enter the dungeon with her if she doesn't cooperate with Fuyi. It's better to pretend to be a StarCraft netizen who loves games and go in with them. Fuyi's character is still good. After a heated exchange, Lu Yunxi and Fu Yu were fully equipped and walked into the tree hole cautiously, while the others waited outside. If you can feel the gloomy and dark after entering the Mountain Bandit dungeon, then after entering the tree hole dungeon, you will see green grass and 2 waist-high trees standing in the middle. Fu Yu and Lu Yunxi stood in place cautiously, staring at the trees closely. Because the people outside said it was difficult, they were naturally very vigilant. However, after 2 loud noises of thump, clang, 2 small trees fell to the ground. Fu Yu's frown relaxed. It seems that the difficult level is behind, be careful later. In this way, the 2 people moved forward very cautiously, and the monsters they encountered changed from small saplings at the beginning to towering trees several people tall later. Lu Yunxi also gradually understood the reason why the people outside failed. Attack the tree with fruits, she yelled at Fu Yu beside her, and her disgust for the tree rose sharply. In the last level, there are also 2 trees. The skill of the big tree with fruits is to restore blood, and the bare tree next to it is responsible for attacking. At the beginning, they didn't know the skills of the 2 trees. After fighting for a long time, they were still a little confused when they saw their blood bars filled up instantly. Until they found out that it was the tree with fruits that was causing trouble, they had already watched the other side replenish blood several times. The 2 trees were level 60 monsters, 2 levels higher than Fu Yi, and it was a bit difficult to deal with 2 trees at the same time. Lu Yunxi's current personality is a little girl who loves games but not money, has blood recovery skills but no attack skills, and likes beautiful clothes. So she couldn't shoot an arrow at the tree monster. In the end, it's all the planner's fault. Why can't one person go to the dungeon? You have to bring teammates. Lu Yunxi frantically added blood to Fu Yi, and then pretended to work hard to stop another tree responsible for the attack. With her secret help, Fu Yi finally knocked down the 2 trees with great effort. The 2 walked out of the tree hole dungeon. The people outside saw that they had no wounds on their bodies. After a moment of silence, they cheered excitedly. Wow! Chapter 67 Weed Monster. Lu Yunxi started working again. Her job was to restore health when playing dungeons, and her salary was the things she got from dungeons. She could take half of the things she got each time. The job was easy, the working environment was comfortable, and the salary was quite good. Lu Yunxi was very satisfied. After playing dungeons several times, Fu Yi also reached level 60. The 2 discussed it and then increased the number of people entering the dungeon one by one. 3 people, 4 people, 100 people. All of them succeeded. Your blood recovery skills are too powerful, right? Fu Yi looked at her in disbelief. He originally thought that she could only treat a dozen people at most, but the final result was far beyond her imagination. Lu Yunxi smiled embarrassedly and scratched her cheek with her fingers. I saved an NPC before, and she gave me a purple blood recovery method. I have already reached the advanced level. Really? What? The person who heard it rushed up and grabbed her shoulders and shook her hard, with tears in his eyes. Where's that NPC? Even if it is where the Zerg gather, I am willing to save him. Calm down. Fu Yi pulled the person away and apologized to her quickly. Sorry, they are sick. Lu Yunxi didn't care. It seems to be a special mission. After I saved that NPC, I never saw it again. She cooperated with Fu Yi to build a good relationship with the official. What if one day she was really found to be not Data? After learning that she had advanced recovery skills, Lu Yunxi was treated better. For example, they let her choose first in all the meals they cooked. She was very moved and then rejected this kindness. Time passed as she played dungeons during the day, spun crazily before going to bed, and practiced piano, chess, calligraphy and painting. This day, maybe it was because of Lu Yunxi's blood recovery bonus in the dungeon, and Fu Yi was not there this time, so everyone was having fun. Quick, take a picture for me. A young man carried 2 tree roots on his shoulders and made a cool pose to the people next to him. Many people saw it and posed for photos. More than half of the people took photos and entered the hidden tree hole. When the system prompt appeared, a flash of light passed by, and when they came to their senses, 100 people had appeared neatly in a new place. Lu Yunxi looked at the dark space and immediately took out a torch from the space. After the light came, the others also reacted and took out things that could be used for lighting from their backpacks. Ms. Lu, come and stand among us, it's safe here. She walked into the space they surrounded and explored with him. Look. There seems to be a lot of grass on the ground here. Someone looked at the weeds on the ground in surprise. It's incredible that grass can grow in this dark place without light. Someone pulled it out casually. However, what appeared in front of her was not an ordinary grass, but a moving grass. Oh no. This guy can attack, I'm losing blood, its attack is so high, and it runs so fast. Everyone, don't pull the grass anymore. This one is enough for us to fight. Ah. My nose. Damn weeds, everyone was in chaos. Yunxi was helpless. This group of people were all newcomers. I heard that they seemed to be students from some academy. Now that no one was leading them, it was a bit chaotic. She used a detection spell and found that the unprepossessing little grass in front of her was actually level 70. Higher than her level. Moreover, this grass has high attack and agility. It is difficult for her to aim with her archery skills, not to mention the interstellar people next to her who are not good at using cold weapons. Ah, stop hitting. Did you notice? Before, we wouldn't hit our own people when we were in a team, but now this function is invalid. No wonder I lost so much blood. Your move just now kept hitting me. Ah. Don't attack yet. Catch this monster first and then hide it. Yunxi twitched her eyes and used the blood recovery skills frantically, feeling that her hands were cramping. Seeing that her mana was about to reach the bottom, she was shocked. Take it easy. My mana is at the bottom, and I may have to recover my mana first. They were scared to death, shouting Ms. Lu, hurry up, and dare not use spells anymore, surrounding her more tightly, fearing that the weeds would hurt her, and they would be finished soon. Because of her presence, they now don't bring blood recovery potions when they go to dungeons. However, it's not that they don't make trouble, they are quiet, but the weed monsters started to make trouble. Puff puff puff, the weed monster retreated, and with a concentrated force, a bunch of seeds were sprayed on them. Ah! My health dropped by 1000 in a flash. No, it's still dropping by 100, the people in the front row facing the attack wanted to cry but had no tears. Yunxi pounded her chest, swallowed the buns, and quickly restored their health. However, seeing that they were fine, the weeds actually used another move. This move was really a big move. A huge seed suddenly appeared from the weeds and exploded above their heads. The health bars of 100 people dropped at the same time. Yunxi watched her own health bar drop by half in an instant, and her heart tightened immediately. She immediately ate the buns, and used 3 blood recovery skills on her side to fill up the blood bar, and then quickly took out more buns and distributed them to the people around her. Take them all, the meat buns are for blood recovery, and the vegetable buns are for mana recovery. This guy is too strong. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of you when the fight starts later. She didn't care about exposing how she had so many orange buns, and distributed all the ones she had made before. The battle was really about to begin. Yunxi rushed forward and once again used the fire stick that she hadn't used for a long time, and whipped the damn weed hard. He whipped it to the left, and the weed flashed back. The fire stick instantly seized the opportunity and whipped it down hard. The weed was instantly flattened on the ground, and its health bar dropped a lot. Seeing the health bar drop by 1/3 in an instant, the others were shocked. So the defense of this thing is so poor. Just when they were stunned, the weed found the opportunity to escape again. The scene began to get chaotic again. The weed jumped higher and faster. For a while, there were continuous cries. But it seemed that the weeds were afraid of Yunxi, so they stayed far away from her and didn't get close to her at all. Oh no. Ms. Lu, the health of our circle is almost at the bottom, suddenly someone exclaimed and looked over with a horrified face. Yunxi's heart jumped suddenly. It was too late. Her current range could only cover 1/3 of the people, but the remaining mana was only enough to activate the blood recovery skill once. She took a deep breath, desperately drew her own mana, and tried her best to activate the largest range of blood recovery skills. Ding! Congratulations, the blood recovery skill has been upgraded to master level. After the system prompt sounded like the sound of nature, the crowd that was originally only half covered by the blood recovery skill was completely covered, and the blood bar was instantly restored to full. Everyone was shocked, and then overjoyed. Great! Did Ms. Lu upgrade? She can restore blood to full in an instant. A group of people suddenly became motivated and rushed towards the weeds with great momentum. After a long battle, they finally defeated the weeds and successfully left the dungeon. Chapter 68 Big Crab. After discovering this hidden dungeon, Fuyi and Yunxi went in every day to fight weed monsters. Half a month later, Yunxi reached level 70. At this time, even if she didn't go to the dungeon with them, Fuyi's men could win the dungeon by themselves. She simply said goodbye to Fuyi and others and returned to Jianzhou. I'm back, Yunxi. Hearing the familiar voice, Zhou Xiaoyu, who was sitting at the counter, tilted her head tentatively. It's me. Yunxi looked around happily, but found that there was not a single customer in the entire store, and it was very deserted. The smile on her face gradually disappeared, and her brows frowned unconsciously. Where's Yunxi? Hearing this, Xiaoyu's smile on her face became a little forced. She went out. Yunxi sighed. What happened? The store was empty. If it hadn't been cleaned up, she would have thought she had come to a place where no one had lived for decades, and Xiaoyu's face was a little sad. If nothing had happened, she would have taken their last name. Actually, it's nothing, Xiaoyu muttered. Our cook ran away a few days ago and went to the other side. Yunxi said she wanted to settle accounts with them. Yunxi frowned, asked for the location, and went to find Yunxi. However, halfway through, she saw Yunxi walking back furiously on the floor. As if the floor was her enemy, her footsteps were so strong that the dust was shaken up. Yunxi, Yunxi patted her shoulder. When Yunxi saw her, she immediately laughed, and her eyes, which were originally burning with anger, were also stained with smiles. Yunxi, why didn't you tell me in advance when you came back? I can have someone cook you some good dishes. She was stuck in the middle of the words. Thinking of the empty kitchen, she turned the words around. I'll cook you some good dishes, then I'll go take a shower first. Seeing that Yunxi didn't mention the chef, Yunxi was relieved and prepared to ask again after she had a good rest. She was exhausted now and had no mind to think about other things. While Yunxi was buying groceries, she boiled 2 pots of water for herself, found an empty room and went to take a shower. When she came out of the shower, Yunxi had already cooked. Yunxi stood by, wiping her hair while watching her bring the dishes to the table. Well, what did you cook? She looked left and right, carefully looking at the dishes on the table several times, but she couldn't tell what the black mess in front of her was. Can't you tell? This is stewed pork belly, this is steamed spare ribs, this is stir-fried vegetables, this is spicy stir-fried pork intestines. Yunxi looked at her in disbelief, and then introduced them to her one by one. In order to welcome her, the dishes were very rich, but, to be honest, Yunxi didn't want to eat much. She watched Xiaoyu come over with a smile on her face, holding the bowl and chopsticks, and sat down and ate happily. Xiaoyu, is it delicious? She looked at Xiaoyu's face and decided that if Xiaoyu fainted, she would immediately support her and give her a detoxification pill. Fortunately, the food cooked by Xiaoyu only looked poisonous, but it was not life-threatening, otherwise she would not dare to get close. After eating a meal that was almost like pig food, several people sat together. Yunxi took Zhou Xiaoyu's hand and tried to use a blood recovery skill. Yunxi saw this scene from the side and sat up straight, staring at Xiaoyu's face closely, with the expectation and uneasiness in her eyes overflowing. After a flash of soft white light, Zhou Xiaoyu's face completely recovered, and her baby-like tender face was pink and looked very beautiful. Zhou Xiaoyu seemed to have noticed something, and she tentatively opened her eyes. The dazzling light made her tears flow in an instant. She closed her eyes again, and her eyes gradually turned red. I see it. I see the light. She shed tears, holding the hand in front of her tightly with both hands, but the corners of her mouth kept curling up. The strong light just now may have hurt your eyes. I'll use another one to recover blood. Yunxi frowned and used the skill again. Try it. Can you see it? This time Zhou Xiaoyu opened his eyes completely, looked closely at the 2 friends beside him, and reached out to touch their faces. It turns out that Yunxi and Yunxi are both so beautiful. Yunxi's eyes were red. The 3 hugged each other tightly after a few days of crazy play. Yunxi readily helped the 2 solve the problem of chefs. She taught them several dishes. Zhou Xiaoyu was very talented. After being awakened by her, he even broke through the elementary level and became an intermediate chef. There are several special dishes, plus their own good skills, which are enough for the 2 to gain a foothold in the local area. After saying goodbye to her friends, Yunxi embarked on the journey to find her aunt again. However, after 2 months in traveling all over the continent, she did not find any trace of her aunt. But it was not without gain. In her free time, she also raised other skills to advanced levels. Yunxi stood on the beach, looking at the dangerous deep sea, and paused. She should eat the pills she made before crossing the ocean. More skills can give her more chances to save her life. She found an open space nearby, set up a protective shield, and sat down cross-legged. 5 pills slid down her throat. Except for the bitter taste of the medicine, there was no pain. Almost in the next moment, the system prompt appeared. Ding! Congratulations on the cooking skill being upgraded to the master level, and the exploration, breeding, medical skills, and construction skills being upgraded to the master level. Yunxi looked at the message above and couldn't help but smile. It's much better than she thought. Master level cooking skills will definitely restore health and mana better, and exploration and medical skills are still very useful. As for breeding and construction, they can be considered as a supplement. It's always good to have a higher level. She stood up happily, jumped on the spot, stretched her muscles, and prepared to cross the sea. Yunxi had heard people say that if you want to go to the next continent, you can't take a boat, you have to swim all the way. Of course, this statement sounds ridiculous. But even her master said that to cross the continent, one must swim. So, she had no choice but to fight. Yunxi changed into waterproof clothes, took a deep breath, and was about to jump into the river. However, just as she took a step forward, she suddenly found a strong light shining directly at her. Almost in an instant, she jumped away and avoided the fatal blow. Not far away, a huge crab was chasing a person. Yunxi was startled. This crab walked sideways so fast. She quickly avoided the crab's attack and jumped into the sea. However, the second before entering the sea, she suddenly found the familiar figure above. It turned out to be her apprentice. Shen-san also saw her, was startled, and shouted, "Master, don't be afraid, I'm here to save you," and then jumped down immediately. The crab rushed into the sea without hesitation and swam after the two of them. Yunxi twitched her lips. Seeing that Shen-san's legs were cramping and he was about to sink, she immediately went over and carried him on her back. However, when the crab saw the two of them together, it seemed to think that the opportunity had come. Its black eyes rolled and it raised its big claws. She picked up the fire stick and was about to fight this guy for 100 rounds. Who knew that the crab didn't want to fight with her, but suddenly began to spin. At first, only the big claws were spinning, and then the whole crab followed. Yunxi? After spinning a few times, the crab suddenly ran away. She inexplicably carried Shen-san on her back and was about to climb to the shore, but found that the sea water suddenly formed a vortex and rolled around the two of them. Yunxi cursed in her heart, "Damn crab, don't let me catch you." The next moment, she and her apprentice were caught in the vortex and completely lost consciousness. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69. What are you angry about? Pa. Along with the sound of slapping, there was an unusual pain on the face. Yunxi opened her eyes quickly, stretched out her hand to grab the fish that kept jumping on her face, and threw it back into the sea with a flick of her hand. She turned over and knelt on the ground, coughed violently twice, and coughed out all the water in her mouth. Only then did she have the mind to observe the environment around her. This is no longer the place where she goes out to sea. The coast of the forest continent only has a few beaches on the edge of the coastline, but there is a large beach here. Going a little further inside, there are no lush broad-leaved forests before, but coconut trees that have never been seen before, growing here in a large area. Not far from the beach, Shen-san lay quietly on the ground, his face pale. Yunxi recovered his strength and immediately stepped forward to press on his chest. Shen-san spit out water from his mouth, and after a while, he finally emptied the water in his stomach. He opened his eyes confusedly, and was stunned for a moment when he saw her. "Master? Where is this? We seem to have come to the new continent." Yunxi looked at the bamboo building not far away. "Let's ask someone later. Where's this place? New continent?" He frowned, held his forehead and slowly sat up, and then suddenly remembered the news he had received. "By the way, Master, didn't you ask me to help you find your aunt before? My friend found out the person you were looking for. Her name is Luz Hunyang, right? People with this name and this age have been found in the water continent and the flower continent." Yunxi paused, and after reacting, he stood up instantly and looked over in surprise. "Really? Could this be the place we are looking for?" When he was halfway through his words, a fisherman bent over and walked slowly by. Seeing that he was still holding a fish basket in his hand, Yunxi immediately stepped forward and glanced at the few scattered fish in the fish basket. "Grandpa, How much do you sell these fish for, little girl? These fish are not valuable. Everyone comes to the beach to pick up some fish to take back to eat. The old grandfather laughed happily. Little girl, is this your first time here? How do you know? Yunxi was stunned for a moment. Haha, people here all grew up eating fish, but no one takes these things to sell. The old grandfather picked up the conch washed up on the shore and chatted with her. We are a small island here, the only island located between the 6 continents. Everyone who wants to cross the continent will pass through us. Which continent are you from? The old man looked at her curiously, with admiration in his tone. I haven't seen anyone dare to cross the continent for a long time. What a brave little girl. Yunxi and the old man learned about it and found out that the small island is a transit station for various continents. I didn't expect there would be such a place. Her master was a lazy person who seldom went out. Others had never heard of crossing continents, so when she came out, she was really confused. But when the people on this small island saw them, they knew they were from the next continent. It really deserves to be a transit station. It must have seen many people crossing continents. We are from the forest continent. Do you know which other continents are around here? Yunxi's eyes lit up. And she took out a large bag of dried meat from the space and handed it to the old man. The old man smiled with satisfaction and counted on his fingers. In addition to our small island, there are also the forest continent, the desert continent, the ice continent, the water continent, the flower continent, and the stone beach continent. You can see that our small island is actually hexagonal, and the 6 corners are opposite to the locations of the other 6 continents. There are signs on the 6 corners, indicating different directions. You can find the place you want to go by following the signs. After the old man finished speaking, he left happily with a fish basket. Yunxi tried his best to persuade Shen, but he was unwilling to separate from her. She had no choice but to take her apprentice with her. Zaya Hadeo is just as its name suggests. It is a small island. The outermost circle is a circle of beach. Walking inward are bamboo houses where locals live. It is much more lively further in. It is a place where people exchange goods, similar to a small market. Coconuts and bananas for meat. Come and see the big and round coconuts. You are too cunning, aren't you? You actually want to exchange coconuts and bananas for meat. Who doesn't have these things at home? Go away. I'm not exchanging with you. Go away. Don't disturb my business. The vendor in front of the stall waved his hand in dissatisfaction, turned around and showed a big smile to Yunxi and Shen. You two look very compatible. You just got married, right? Married men have to choose the biggest and roundest coconut for their wives, so that they can be happy and happy. Big brother, come and pick one. Yunxi twitched his eyes. He was speechless that the vendor in front of him had done business for him, especially this rhetoric. It sounded too wrong, didn't it? At this time, the master and apprentice were a little embarrassed. They turned their heads away from each other and pretended to look at the scenery not far away. After being stiff for a long time, Yunxi finally straightened her face. Let's leave here quickly. We have to go see how my aunt is doing. Shen nodded immediately. The two of them left the place a little stiffly. However, before they walked out of the small market, a large group of people came to the front. Standing in the front was a woman with heavy makeup, wearing a moon-white dress, gently waving a round fan in her hand, and walking slowly. If she was not walking on a small road full of sand, she would look like she was walking on a catwalk, beautiful and charming. In fact, the flying sand blew on her skirt, making her look like a fool. Behind this person was a large group of strong men, and when they walked in front of them, they suddenly stopped. The woman looked at the two people with a look of contempt. Huh? Where did this bumpkin come from? Yunxi and Shen. Sir, don't you look at the bumpkin next to you? You are willing to stand next to her in such a rustic skirt? You are really kind-hearted. The woman gently fanned the fan, and a breeze with fragrance came. Yunxi, who was next to her, also smelled the fragrance. She moved her nose slightly, and a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. This smell is very tempting. However, Shen was not confused by the fragrance. Instead, he frowned and took a step back, looking at the woman opposite politely. Please stay away from me, girl. I am allergic to fragrance. After saying that, he pretended to sneeze 3 times loudly. The woman's face changed slightly. Yunxi couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Bumpkin, what are you laughing at? Do you think you are so great? The woman was angry and turned around and fired at her. You are right. Yunxi smiled gently, ignoring the woman's angry look. and slowly left with Shen San. After walking away, "Master," Shen San looked at her hesitantly. Lu Yunxi looked up at him strangely. The disciple had already looked at her several times on the road. What on earth was he going to say? It was really frustrating. "Master, that person just now, are you okay?" Shen San carefully glanced at her expression, and quickly turned his eyes away. She smiled helplessly. "What can happen to me? She is just an insignificant passerby. On the contrary, how come you still remember her?" At this point, she couldn't help but joked. "Is it because the girl just now was so beautiful?" His face flushed. "Master, what are you talking about? I'm so worried about you. Wait for me. What are you angry about?" Shen San. Chapter 70 Flower King. "Master, your dishes are getting better and better." Shen San was amazed as he ate the dishes she cooked. Many of his friends also became apprentices to learn cooking, but their masters were still at the same level when they started. Even if some of them were upgraded, they were mostly low-level chefs. Only his master, who started as an intermediate chef, rose all the way to the master level. Looking at a table of gold-quality dishes, he felt that his hands holding the chopsticks were trembling slightly. So far, no gold-quality items have ever appeared in the game. I didn't expect that they would enter my stomach now. Seeing her apprentice eating happily, Lu Yunxi felt a little proud. That's right, although she was a kitchen killer in her previous life, she is now a top chef. "Master, don't worry, I will learn well, and I will cook for you every day after I learn it." Shen San suddenly became motivated. He didn't believe that he would never be able to surpass his master's cooking skills. In the following time, Shen San took over the cooking work and cooked for her every day. Lu Yunxi was also happy to relax and gave some pointers from time to time. In this way, the two came to the corner of the flower continent. "Master, how can you be sure that your aunt is in the flower continent?" "I'm not sure." She held her chin and thought for a while, "but my mother said that her hometown is in a very beautiful place." "Isn't it said that the scenery of the flower continent is very beautiful?" Shen San looked at her hesitantly, and thought to himself, most people have a filter for their hometown. Everyone says that their hometown is beautiful, but let's go. She didn't care about her apprentice's days, and jumped into the sea after warming up. Shen San had no choice but to jump in. The last thought before losing consciousness was, every time I cross the continent, I have to jump into the sea. Isn't there a more normal way? "Master, you have eaten 3 bowls of fried petals. Are you still not full?" Shen San looked at her in surprise, and his eyes unconsciously slid to her lower abdomen. Lu Yunxi slapped him on the head. "Stinky boy, where are you looking?" The lady in the store smiled so hard that her eye wrinkles appeared. "You two have such a good relationship. Are you going to participate in the flower festival?" Flower festival. Ignoring the word husband and wife, Lu Yunxi immediately found the point. "Yes." The lady looked at the vase on the table with nostalgia in her eyes. "Every year during the flower festival, young people will present the most beautiful flowers they have picked to the flower king. Whoever can present the flower king's favorite flower can get a gift from the flower king, the flower king's gift." "What is the gift?" "I don't know." The lady shook her head. "What? You have held this flower festival for so long, and no one knows what the gift is? Could it be a pyramid scheme or something? Just to trick people into going?" Lu Yunxi and Shen San looked at each other and saw the suspicion in each other's eyes. "Ha ha ha, don't worry, the flower king will not lie. It has been protecting the people of our flower continent." Neither of them was a nosy person, so they didn't dwell on this topic. "The flower festival is not important at all. Auntie, we want to find someone named Lu Yunyang. Do you know her?" Shen San got the news that a person named Lu Yunyang was seen on an unknown mountain. But there are many mountains here, and they are endless. They can only ask the locals. "Lu Yunyang? I know everyone who lives in the center of the flower continent, and there is no such person. You may have to go to the mountains to find her." The old lady frowned and thought for a while, then shook her head. "If you don't want to cross mountains and ridges, you can go to the Flower King to ask. But the Flower King rarely agrees to help outsiders, unless you can win the first place in the Flower Festival. The Flower Festival will be held in 3 days, and you still have time to pick flowers now." "Master, are we really going to find the Flower King with this?" Shen San looked at the small flowers picked casually by the roadside in the master's hand, and asked after a while. There are many flowers in the flower continent, and he has basically never seen any of them. But the flowers that the master picked were too casual. He really just picked a few flowers from the roadside and brought them back. Let's go see the Flower King first. She was very suspicious of what the Flower King was. Is it equipped with a location? Holding the small daisy picked by the roadside, the two went around the back of the mountain to the most open place in the flower continent. There was only one flower here. A flower that was about the size of an elephant. Yunxi was about to step forward, but Shen San stopped her immediately. Master, wait a moment, I'll go and take a look first. Come over when it's safe. Shen San pulled out the giant sword behind him and walked up. She twitched her eyes, and seeing that her apprentice was about to fight, she quickly divided the flowers in her hand into half and stuffed them into his hand. Shen San approached the Flower King, but the Flower King was like an ordinary flower, blooming quietly. Flower King? Are you the Flower King? Shen San waved his giant sword and approached a little bit. Flower King, I heard that you are very powerful. You know everything about astronomy and geography. However, no matter what Shen San said, the Flower King was like an ordinary flower, motionless. Yunxi watched for a while, and walked forward with confidence. Auntie also said that the Flower King would have a gift, but the Flower King is just an ordinary flower. What is the gift? If it can't help us find someone. She stopped talking halfway. The huge petals suddenly opened up and slowly approached her. She was startled and instantly put up a protective shield. She slowly stepped back a few steps, trying to leave this huge and movable flower. Seeing this, Shen San immediately stood in front of her. Yunxi stood in place. Flowers obviously have no eyes, but she strangely felt that the flower seemed to be looking at her. Human, what are you doing here? An old voice that seemed to have experienced the world suddenly sounded. Yunxi opened her eyes wide. Who? Shen San, did you hear any sound just now? It was the flower talking. Shen San was also surprised at this time. Because he had just been making a fuss for so long, and he didn't see the Flower King move. Human from another world, this is not the place for you to stay. The ethereal and old voice of the Flower King sounded again. Yunxi's heart sank. Human from another world. What does it mean? The Flower King found out that she was a time traveler. What are you waiting for? Go back quickly, go back to where you should go. After the Flower King finished speaking, he moved back to his original position, like an ordinary big flower, quietly blooming. Master, are you okay? Shen San suddenly spoke, making her heart jump. Damn. Shen San also heard what the Flower King said just now. Will he guess? Master, what does the Flower King mean by that? Do you have any secret life experience? Shen San looked curious and inquiring, as if he was thinking about some big secret. The heart that was hanging was instantly put down. It seems that he thought that the Flower King said that because he had some kind of setting. He must think that he had a special mission, right? Yunxi laughed inwardly. After she had an idea, she pretended to be sad, shook her head inside, and then said nothing. Shen San didn't know what he had in mind. He watched her nod from time to time, and then he often gave her some novel things, as if he wanted to improve her favorability. The gift-giving continued until the day of the Flower Festival. Chapter 71 Lu Xianyang. On the day when the Flower Festival was officially held. This time it was Yunxi's turn to laugh at Shen San. Why don't you pick any other flowers? You picked rape flowers for the Flower King. She pointed at the rape flowers in his hand and laughed. It will definitely not like it. In terms of ornamental value, it needs bigger flowers to look good. After laughing for a long time, she carefully looked at the flower in her arms that was blooming. I hope this flower can help her win the first place. She really wants to ask the Flower King if it knows something. It also asked her to go back, but the problem is that she is now trapped in the holographic world and can't go back at all. Just when she was feeling uneasy, it was their turn to present flowers soon. Yunxi looked at the team in front of her with a little doubt in her heart. To be honest, everyone lined up like this and put the flowers in front of the Flower King all the way without stopping. If this goes on, who knows which flower the Flower King likes? She stood in front of the apprentice and put the flower on the ground. Seeing that the Flower King did not move at all, she could not help but feel a little disappointed. However, within 2 seconds of walking over, she heard a burst of exclamations behind her. She turned her head suddenly and saw that the Flower King's petals were trembling slightly and approaching Shen San. A flash of light passed by, and Shen San disappeared. Shen San, Yunxi screamed in fear and ran over, but was stopped by the person behind her. Don't go over there. This year's Flower King has chosen its favorite flower. That guy went to get his reward. The person behind him looked at him with envy and hatred. Anyway, he will come back after getting the reward. You might as well sit by the side and wait for him. She looked around and saw that everyone had an envious expression. Then she found a cool place on the side and sat down to wait for Shen San to come back. Shen San, who entered the Flower King's space, was confused at this time. What do I want? Could it be that the Flower King can still satisfy all his wishes? Although it is only in the game, once this gift from the Flower King is taken out, it will definitely make all the players crazy, right? Whether he wanted a gold level weapon or a technique, he could choose randomly. He could even be promoted to Master Chef immediately, reaching the level of his master. But too many choices made him unsure. What should he do to maximize his benefits? After thinking for a long time, he suddenly thought of his master. At that time, what Hua Wang said to his master was very strange. He suspected that there was something unusual about his master's life experience. However, just when he was about to say it, his intuition suddenly sounded the alarm, as if telling him not to continue. Otherwise, he would regret it later. He didn't understand why. It was obviously just a reward for a game. But his intuition had never been wrong. He pursed his lips and finally gave up asking, Hua Wang, I want to keep this reward for now. Can I come to you later when I think of it? Hua Wang shook its flower butt up and down. Okay, then. Shen San was sent out. Yunxi and Shen San walked all the way up the mountain, but her mind was not on finding people at all. She was really curious about what reward the apprentice wanted. She rolled her eyes and was about to test it when she suddenly heard an intermittent voice. Woo husband, where are you? Yunxi paused and turned to walk in the direction of the voice. In the flowers, a woman in a coarse cloth dress was crying, her eyes full of sadness. Girl, what's wrong with you? Why are you here alone? She squatted down, without looking at the girl's crying face, but gently patted her shoulder. My husband is gone, the woman sniffed, her voice full of sadness. What's wrong? Can I help you? Don't cry. Yunxi helped the woman stand up slowly. Where is your home? I'll take you back first. The woman's home was not far away, only about 10 minutes away from here. Sitting at the table with a bowl of hot water, the woman calmed down a lot. Thank you so much. My name is Lu Xianyang. My husband grows flowers in the mountains. But he didn't come back yesterday. I was worried about him. Yunxi and Shen San's eyes met instantly. Lu Xianyang? Isn't this the person they are looking for? It's really easy to get. After listening to her description of her husband, the two left the hut in the mountains. Master, is she your aunt? However, Yunxi didn't know. All she knew was her aunt's name and age. Lu Xianyang had also seen the jade pendant on her waist, but she didn't react at all. According to my mother, my aunt would recognize it immediately when she saw the jade pendant. This is totally inconsistent. But my mother was still very young when she was sold. My aunt is the same age as my mother, and it is possible that she has forgotten my mother a long time ago. She thought carefully for a while. Let's help her find her husband first, and then ask what the aunt's family used to do. The two of them did what they said, following the clues provided by Lu Xianyang, and soon found her husband. However, her husband was lying on the ground, bleeding continuously. Shen San immediately stepped forward and gave him a large bottle of blood medicine, and Yunxi took out a bandage and bandaged him up. Who are you? The man barely opened his eyes and spoke in a low and weak voice. Your wife found that you didn't come back and was very worried about you, so we came to find you. A touch of tenderness flashed in the man's eyes. Sorry to bother you. A wolf howl suddenly sounded. His face changed. Oh no, the wolves are back, let's run. But he was too late. Just as he finished speaking, a large group of wolves surrounded the three of them. Shen San drew out his giant sword, looked closely at the wolf leader, and his face became solemn. But in the next moment, the system prompt sounded, entering the wolf pack copy. When she heard this familiar voice, Yunxi's heart skipped a beat, and her face changed for a moment, but she soon regained her composure. When Shen San found that she had also followed him into the dungeon, he was startled. Master, why are you entering too? Yunxi looked at him calmly, as if asking, what's wrong? Shen San looked at her calm expression, then looked at the man on the ground, and thought to himself, could it be that NPCs can actually enter the dungeon? It's just that he had never seen it before, so he didn't notice it? He followed his master in a daze, until the wolves rushed up, then he hurriedly shouted, Master, hide behind me, raised his giant sword and chopped down. No wolves dared to approach Yunxi. I don't know if the animal's intuition is more sensitive. They seemed to think that she was in danger, and they all ran towards Shen San. And with her protection, he was not afraid that Lu Xuniang's husband would get into trouble. Shen San saw that they would not be besieged by the wolves, and he became more certain of his guess. Probably NPCs would not be attacked. He then boldly fought the wolves. Lu Yunxi watched for a while, and seeing that he could deal with the wolves, he immediately relaxed and chatted with the people next to him. I ran into a pack of wolves when I came out, otherwise I would have gone home long ago. My wife. She was born in the town, but she never despised me and moved to the mountains with me. My father-in-law and mother-in-law like to stroll in the flowers. They have a good relationship. I really hope that my wife and I can be so good when we are old. Lu Yunxi chatted with him for a few words and soon confirmed that this Lu Xuniang was not his aunt. It seems that a real aunt should be in the water continent. Chapter 72 Going Out to Sea. Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, my husband might have. Lu Xuniang held Lu Yunxi's hand tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. Don't be so polite. Lu Yunxi shook her head and chuckled. Lu Xuniang sniffed, wiped her tears, and suddenly thought of something. She wiped her hands on her coarse cloth skirt and ran into the house. Not long after, she came out carefully holding a box. This is a gift for you, to thank you for your help. She handed the box to them. I don't have anything else good, but this is the reward I got when I planted flowers for people before. You can take it. The man with his legs and feet wrapped like a big dumpling also nodded in agreement. Indeed, you can take it. There were no wolves in our mountains before, and they probably came here recently. You helped us defeat the wolves, which saved our lives. We don't need to worry about danger in the future. After saying that, he suddenly thought of what he had gotten before, and bent down to pull out the big box under the stool. Didn't you say you were going to the sea? I got a boat by chance before, but I felt it was useless, so I put it away. Since you need it, just use it. Master Lu Yunxi and his apprentice were delighted. If there was a boat, it would certainly be better than jumping into the sea back and forth. They said they were swimming to the opposite continent, but if you went there yourself, you would know that they didn't swim there at all. They were swept away by an inexplicable whirlpool as soon as they entered the sea. The two happily accepted this package that looked a bit strange. Our boat can be folded up. When you need it, just open it at the seaside, but this boat is a bit small. It doesn't matter if it's small, as long as it can be used. Master Lu Yunxi and his apprentice said goodbye to the couple, and then asked someone for the direction of the water continent. On the way, she opened the box sent by Lu Xuniang. Shen San looked at the things in the box and had a headache. Why do people think that he and his master are a couple? They are clearly a pure master-disciple relationship. Lu Yunxi finally took out the couple's rings and gave the larger one to Shen San. Apprentice, take it. This ring is very good, very beautiful. When she saw that it was a couple's ring, she wanted to put it in the corner of the space, but when she found out that the ring was of orange quality, she didn't do that. Orange quality is almost the best thing. Gold quality is even more rare. Not to mention it's just a couple's ring. Even if it's an ugly piece of equipment like shit, she is willing to wear it. Shen San's hand, which was originally about to refuse, also stopped when he saw the glittering orange halo. The two of them each took the ring that suited them and put it on their fingers. After putting on the ring, Lu Yunxi cleared her throat and said seriously, next we are going to the water continent. Go to the town to ask someone. Yeah. Shen San nodded, his eyes darting around, as if he was studying which direction to go. What? You actually have a boat? The old man widened his eyes in shock. Then why are you going back to this small island? No matter which continent you are from, you have to swim to this small island, but if you are just sailing between other continents, you can pass through with a boat. But I heard that you have to pass through the small island to go to any continent. Lu Yunxi was stunned. That's for ordinary people. It's different for you who have boats. The old man shook his head. There are only a few people in the whole continent who have boats. That person didn't expect it. We are going to the water continent. Do you know which direction to go? Water continent? I don't know where the water continent is. I only know that if I go in this direction, the desert continent will be to the west, and the ice continent will be to the east. You can find the water continent in any direction. Lu Yunxi and Shen San came to the beach and opened the folding boat given by Lu Xuniang's husband. It is called a boat, but it is more like a flower. It is pink and beautiful, standing quietly on the sea. But this flower boat is a bit troublesome. It is really a bit small. It is spacious for one person to stand, But there is no place for two people to sit inside, so they can only stand close together. Lu Yunxi and Shen San looked at this small boat and fell into deep thought. The two comforted themselves in their hearts. Anyway, the other party and themselves are not from the same world. The master is just a bunch of data. Thinking of this, both the master and the apprentice relaxed. This boat seems to be equipped with oars. Do you want us to row over? Which direction should we go? To the desert continent, or to the ice continent? The two looked at each other and understood instantly. It seems that the other party doesn't like the feeling of being swept into the sea either. Let's go to the ice continent? The desert doesn't sound like there is water, Shen San suggested. I think so too. Lu Yunxi nodded in agreement and put the oar in his hand. Let's start. Shen San looked at the green oar in his hand that looked like a plant and fell into silence. He started rowing silently. Lu Yunxi stood beside him and felt the heat sticking to him. She moved her body uneasily, but when she saw him rowing with all his heart and sweating profusely, she suddenly calmed down. Humph! Why should she be uneasiness? Her apprentice thought he was just an NPC. For her who lives in a holographic world, isn't the apprentice also a virtual person? She turned over in the space, turned out a wooden board, placed it horizontally on the pedal boat, closed her eyes and fell asleep. When she wakes up, she should be able to reach the ice continent. When Shen San found that his master was asleep, he collapsed. Because he had been facing his back to his master, he didn't notice that she had put a board behind her and fell asleep. He looked up at the 100-story monster, pushed his hand back, and shouted, "Master, run!" After that, he drew out the giant sword and confronted the monster. However, all his moves were melee, and there was no long-range attack at all. Seeing that the water monster was getting closer and closer and was about to overturn the boat, he could only take a deep breath and jump into the sea. He had to pull the water monster away, otherwise it would be troublesome if the boat was overturned later. He swam all the way to the distance, but the water monster did not chase him, but stood still in the distance, looking at the flower boat. Shen San thought to himself that it was not good, and wanted to run back. At this time, Lu Yunxi finally woke up. Being stared at by a level 80 monster, how careless must she be to not wake up? She looked at the big octopus with several tentacles constantly wriggling, and did not bother to hide the fact that she knew martial arts, and immediately took out a bow and arrow from the space. However, it was her apprentice who was faster than her. Shen San had already slashed the giant sword fiercely. Shen San, danger! The apprentice was only in his 60s, and was no match for the octopus monster. The octopus monster felt pain instantly, as if it was enraged, and its tentacles pulled hard, and it slapped Shen San away. The sea surface was hit hard by the huge tentacles, and the waves reached Lu Yunxi's side, and the boat turned over and turned upside down in the sea. She only had time to put the boat back into the space. The next second, she was swept away by the whirlpool that suddenly appeared. Before she completely lost consciousness, she aimed at the damn octopus and fired 1,000 arrows at once, shooting the octopus into a basket. Chapter 73. Do I need to buy water? The sunlight is so dazzling. Lu Yunxi stretched out her arms, barely blocking the sunlight, and slowly sat up with her aching body. Only then did she see the surrounding environment clearly. There was endless sand all around, and there was a person next to her whose life or death was unknown. Of course, she quickly confirmed that he was still alive. If Shen San had died, he would have gone to the resurrection point by now, so why would he still be lying here? She immediately used a blood recovery skill, and the pain in her body disappeared instantly. Lu Yunxi stood up and jumped a little, looking around, and saw that there was nothing here except sand, and she couldn't help but worry. Unlike the white sand on the coast, the sand here is yellow and looks like a desert. After a moment of confusion, she turned around and saw that her apprentice had not woken up yet, so she curiously went over. After she used the blood recovery skill, she should have woken up immediately, so why hasn't he woken up yet? An adventurer who fainted due to lack of water. Lu Yunxi looked at this prompt and frowned. Fortunately, there was a bottle of water in the space, which she had put there before in case of an accident. Now it was really useful. She poured some water and slowly fed it to him. Time passed little by little. Shen San had not woken up yet, but the sun was getting hotter and hotter. Lu Yunxi stood on the ground and felt that her feet were about to be scalded. If this continued, Shen San's dehydration would only get worse. She rummaged around in the space and finally found a few pieces of cloth. She simply built a shed in a sheltered place, moved Shen San into the tent, and then laid down. The sun could dry people out, so she simply opened the forum to see what life was like in the interstellar. Although most people were talking about games, occasionally someone would talk about their lives. I was robbed on the road, and I subconsciously used the moves in the game, and I actually defeated the robber. Have you heard of the forest continent? I have a mission to go to the forest continent. What the hell is this? How do I get there? Yunxi couldn't help laughing when he saw everyone's comments. Master, Shen-san held his forehead and slowly sat up. Looking at the master who suddenly laughed, his expression was a little subtle. Master. Was she stimulated by something? Also, could it be that he had an illusion, always feeling that just now when the master approached outside, there seemed to be a flash of light, and then he felt much more comfortable. It seems that he really lost his mind. He touched his head, a little worried that he might have hurt his head. Yunxi didn't know what he was thinking, so she quickly closed the forum and put her hand on his forehead for a while. What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable? You don't have a fever, it's just like seeing an illusion, he muttered in a voice that only he could hear, and soon raised his voice. Master, what are we doing here? It's so hot in the desert now. Where are you still thinking about going? Yunxi patted the mat next to him. Because of that octopus, we are not going to the ice continent now, but to the desert continent. It's so hot now, let's take a break first. In order to save their energy, the two of them didn't talk anymore, and waited quietly for time to pass. In the evening, the two of them put away the shed and started a long journey in the desert. The desert is so lonely and the smoke is straight, and the long river is setting and the sun is round. Yunxi and Shen-san walked slowly in the desert. When the wind blew, sand kept flying into their hair. There is no water source in the desert, and the water they had stored before had long been used up. The lips of the two were dry and peeling. Take a break. Looking at the apprentice's face as thin as an old man, Yunxi took out the shed again. After all, Shen-san was not as high as her level, and his dehydration was more serious than hers. If he continued walking like this, he would soon appear at the resurrection point. He obviously also understood that his situation was not good, and he almost instantly closed his eyes and fell asleep. Yunxi didn't take it seriously at first. However, when it was night and he hadn't woken up yet, her heart sank. She had seen on the forum a long time ago that holographic online games were different from the online games of her era. Holographic online games were immersive games that usually allowed people to stay in the game for 2 months after being filled with a nutrient solution. If he went offline, Shen-san would disappear directly. He should still be online, but something happened to this body. At this time, she really wanted to beat him up. Who on earth made a game that would make players dehydrated in the desert, and even make them unconscious? Holding her unconscious apprentice, she frowned and rummaged through the boxes in the space. Fortunately, although there was no water, she also found some wild vegetables and fruits that she had saved before, which barely had some water. She squeezed the juice out of the wild fruit bit by bit, and then fed it to Shen-san bit by bit. She was very careful because she was afraid of wasting it. After feeding him, she slapped her head. That's right. Shen-san is obviously a player, he won't really die at all. She was really confused. Master, a weak voice suddenly sounded. Yunxi immediately turned around and looked at the apprentice. Sure enough, he woke up. Master, his eyes were complicated, with a little guilt, and there seemed to be something else. She was a little confused, and came over in confusion. What's wrong? Master, don't give me water anymore. Shen-san closed his eyes and stopped looking at her. Keep it for yourself. Yunxi twitched her eyes. Of course she would keep it for herself. After all, if the apprentice died, he would just return to the resurrection point, but if she died, she would really die. Thinking of this, she picked up the bowl and started squeezing juice again. Shen-san's eyes suddenly lit up, then darkened again, and he seemed to be a little worried, looking at her for several times, hesitant to speak. Master, you don't have to give me water. Shen-san suddenly closed his eyes, looking like he was going to the battlefield. I'll tell you the truth, you are actually what am I? Yunxi was busy squeezing juice and didn't pay attention, only vaguely heard the last point. I mean, Master, I am actually immortal. Shen-san rolled his eyes and patted his chest. I won't die, so you don't have to worry about me. Don't leave the water for me. Yunxi was stunned and turned to look at him in confusion. As a player, Shen-san would of course not die. What surprised her was that he actually said this. Isn't he afraid that she would ask him why he won't die? How would he explain the NPC and the game world at that time? She stared at him for a long time before she looked away. I know, Shen-san saw her lowering her head to fiddle with the juice, and immediately covered his chest with relief. Fortunately, the master did not ask him how he became immortal, otherwise he really would not know how to make up a story. Just when the atmosphere was a little weird, a man covered in a black robe suddenly appeared in the desert. You too, do you need to buy some water? His voice was hoarse, and it sounded like his throat was injured, and he would pause from time to time when he spoke. How much? Regardless of how incredible it was that someone was selling water in the desert, Yunxi immediately stood up. It was a game, so no matter how wrong it was normal. The strange man in black robe laughed like a duck. No money is needed, but I can only sell water to one of you. The other person can't drink it. He smiled weirdly like a devil. How about it? Who of you two will drink it? Chapter 74. You can use bow and arrow. So, who will you two choose to let drink the water? Shen-san, she drinks. Yunxi, I drink. The two spoke at the same time, which startled the black-robed man. Then he laughed for a long time. After laughing, he looked at Shen-san and asked with a strange face, did you see it? This is the woman you love. She disregarded your life for her own life. Do you still love her? Shen-san had a strange expression, and Yunxi had no expression. Excuse me, how much does it cost to give her the water? Seeing that the master had no intention of talking, he asked helplessly. The black-robed man was afraid of chaos in the world. Oh? Are you sure you want her to drink? And then you lie here and wait to die? Yes, I do. Shen-san hadn't finished speaking when he was suddenly pulled by Yunxi. Enough, Shen-san, no need to ask any more. She glanced at the black-robed man with a faint expression. Let's go, we can survive without water. But, Shen-san frowned. Yunxi turned around and left without hesitation. Even though she knew that Shen-san was a player, she still felt uncomfortable when she heard the black-robed man say that he was it. She lowered her head and walked quickly, but her heart was heavy. What happened to her? He was just a player. They were completely from two different worlds. Why should she be unhappy about a false death? Master, Shen-san hurriedly chased after him. Looking at the master who suddenly fell down for some reason, he was a little at a loss. When the master was in front of him, he was always calm and composed. When had he ever looked so lost? Master, what's wrong with you? If you don't like that person, we just ignore him. He carefully stretched out a finger and gently touched her shoulder. Yunxi looked up and gave him a complicated look. Did she really regard this guy as her apprentice? She took a deep breath, raised her head and closed her eyes, and said silently, Yunxi, you are crazy. You are not from the same world. You regard him as a disciple, but he only thinks you are an NPC. Master, a cautious voice came. When she opened her eyes again, her emotions had returned to calm. She smiled and teased him, it's okay, I just suddenly thought of something. Seeing that his master had returned to his usual appearance, Shen-san was relieved. Master, you were so scary just now, I thought. Bang! Yunxi's eyes darkened, and she pushed Shen-san away in an instant, and at the same time rolled back to avoid the fatal blow. What are you doing? Looking at the slowly approaching black-robed man, her eyes were full of coldness. If she hadn't reacted quickly just now, the master and disciple would have died long ago. The black-robed man raised a strange smile at the corner of his mouth, and his hoarse voice was full of malice. What are you doing? I'm going to send you two dogs to hell. Shen-san's face was solemn. He drew out his giant sword and blocked her in front of her. We didn't provoke you, did we? Are you sure you want to fight against the two of us alone? Yunxi guessed that this man didn't like couples, right? The problem is that she and her apprentice are not a couple at all. You misunderstood. Actually, we are master and disciple, not lovers at all. Walking in the desert was tiring enough, and she really didn't want to waste her energy fighting with others. However, the man in black robe became even angrier when he heard what they said. He raised his hand and released several combos, which made the desert blast with crackling sounds and sands flying all over the sky. Don't pretend anymore. I won't believe your words. All the bitches, die. The black robe behind him fluttered in the wind, and he looked like a villain in a TV series. Shen-san waved the giant sword in his hand and rushed forward. There was a loud clang, and the giant sword chopped down, but the cloak was like steel and easily blocked his attack. The man in black robe threw his hand and wanted to knock him over, but he seized the opportunity and stabbed him in the abdomen. Yunxi frowned and searched for his weapon in the space. Shen San was only level 68, but the man in black robe was already level 78, but the difference of 10 levels was not an ordinary 10 levels. Level 70 is a hurdle. Only those above level 70 can be considered as masters. Many people are stuck here and have never been able to advance. Shen San is only at an advanced level at this time. If he fights with a master, he will suffer a great loss. Although she has just reached level 71, she is still a master. Her eyes lit up. However, almost at the moment she found a weapon, Shen San could no longer hold on and was thrown out. The moment he was thrown out, he shouted, "Master, run away!" Looking at Shen San, who vomited blood and fell to the ground, Yunxi didn't care about hiding and immediately took out his bow and arrow. "Fire all the arrows!" Tens of thousands of arrows flew out and shot at the man in black robes. The black-robed man sneered and let the arrows rain down, but when he found that he was injured, his face darkened again. "It seems that you are better at fighting than that boy. I thought you couldn't fight, that's why that boy protected you so much." After saying that, he suddenly noticed Shen San's shocked face, raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Oh, what? It seems that you are hiding it from him. You don't know each other so well, how can you get married?" Yunxi didn't bother to pay attention to his nonsense, and kept shooting arrows, trying to knock down the black-robed man as soon as possible. However, even though her attack was very high, the lethality of her bow and arrow was greatly reduced when the black-robed man used his damn cloak. After fighting for a while, she started to eat buns. "Your cloak, can't it be of gold quality?" Her orange bow and arrow is also the best among the orange-grade weapons. Even her weapons can't penetrate it, and she knows it is gold without detection. The black-robed man didn't know whether he was disdainful or confident. He not only didn't stop her from eating, but laughed. "Ha ha ha, you have good taste. This is indeed a gold product, and it can't be penetrated by your shabby weapon." At this time, Shen San finally filled up his health bar. Hearing this, he suddenly had an idea and rushed up immediately, pulled off the other's cloak, held him down, and shouted, "Master, hurry up!" Yunxi's eyes lit up. Seeing that the black-robed man wanted to pull the robe back, he took the lead and stuffed the black robe into his backpack, then picked up the bow and arrow and rushed over. The black-robed man without the cloak was just a fragile mage. Even if he was a master, his strength was still not as good as Shen San, who had maxed out his strength. With the cooperation of the master and apprentice, the black-robed man was finally completely defeated. Both of them were exhausted, and they sat down on the ground without caring about the heat of the beach. Yunxi had time to look at the spoils just now. There were dozens of bottles of water, half of which she threw to Shen San, as well as a golden staff and the cloak they had taken. Although they were all gold, the staff was of no use to the two of them. But when she looked through the cloak, she suddenly found a surprise. "Shen, Master," the two spoke at the same time, looking at each other. Yunxi paused and motioned for him to speak first. "Master, so you can use a bow and arrow?" "I didn't know." Shen San didn't know what he wanted to say. He laughed dryly and started playing with the sand in his hand. He couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. He always thought he knew the master very well, but it turned out that he actually didn't know the master's past, what the master usually did, and what the master's dream was. He just subconsciously thought that the master was an NPC. Although he looked like a human, he still thought of the master with his inherent thinking. Chapter 75 Oasis. When Yunxi heard what Shen San said, her heart skipped a beat, and the 4 words "rollover warning" were engraved in her mind. After a long while, she managed to let her heartbeat return to normal. She smiled and explained, "Yes, my father is a hunter. When I was very young, I learned hunting from my father." "What about your father? Should I go visit him?" Shen San was stunned, and then he began to think about it in his mind. To visit the master's father, he should bring a few bottles of good wine, and then bring. "My father passed away when I was very young. My mother thought hunting was too dangerous, so she never let me touch the bow and arrow again." When she said this, she felt a little nostalgic. The days when my parents were still alive. Shen San widened his eyes, and the slight discomfort in his heart suddenly disappeared. So that's how it is. No wonder the master never mentioned the past. He carefully glanced at his master's face, and when he saw that she was not too sad, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "Master, I will always be with you in the future." Yunxi came back to her senses, and seeing his cautious expression, she laughed. "It's been a long time since then, you don't have to worry about me." Speaking of which, I'm doing very well now, and I've even joined a sect. Shensan slightly widened her eyes. I heard that no player has been able to find a sect so far, but she didn't expect that her master had news. Do you want to join? Forget it. Shensan shook her head and rejected her kindness. I'm still used to being alone. Joining any organization will definitely have tasks in the future. He feels just right now and doesn't want to find trouble for himself. He comes to play games to relax, not to get himself into more tiring work. With these bottles of water and the cloak in my hand, we don't have to be afraid of walking in the desert anymore. Seeing that Shen-san no longer doubted her, Lu Yunxi suddenly fell into joy again. Cloak, yes, this golden cloak is different. It can block wind, rain, lightning, sand, and even sunlight. If we put on this cloak, we don't have to worry about being dehydrated by the sun. We can take turns wearing it when the time comes. Shen-san took the cloak and looked at it. He was relieved and carefully put the cloak on her. Master, you can just wear it. I'm not afraid of the sun. Lu Yunxi was slightly stunned, and then couldn't help laughing. Then I'll give you the staff. I can't take two golden things by myself. Shen-san took it, took a look at it, and threw it into his backpack. It's pretty good. It's much stronger than my sword. I can take it out and use it when fighting. Master, Shen-san shouted and was about to come over. Don't come over, I'm fine. Lu Yunxi's face changed, and he shouted immediately, fearing that he would follow and die. Quicksand, a deadly crisis in the desert. This is not a joke. She took a deep breath to calm her breathing, then she slowly moved herself, and tried her best to increase the contact area between herself and the quicksand to facilitate her departure. Shen-san was on top, trying to help her. From sunrise to sunset, the two struggled for a long time, and finally got out of danger after being covered in dust. Lu Yunxi lay on the ground, panting, exhausted. This damn desert. After saying that, the cold wind blew, and a chill came over her. She twitched her eyes and hugged herself. Fortunately, she put on a cloak, otherwise she would really be tortured crazy by this hot and cold weather. However, although this cloak is fire-resistant and lightning-resistant, it is not cold-resistant. Just as Lu Yunxi was shivering, a thick blanket suddenly covered her. With it, a concerned face followed. Master, are you okay? He looked at her with a little worry. At this time, her face was pale, and she was trembling slightly because of the cold, and even her lips became extremely pale. After wrapping herself in the blanket, a warm feeling gradually came up. I'm fine. She snuggled into the quilt comfortably, with a sigh on her face. It's so comfortable, but, you gave me the blanket. Do you have any quilts to sleep on yourself? Don't worry, Master, I have other quilts. If you don't have enough, just tell me and I'll give you a few more. Shen-san talked to her while setting up the shed. Lu Yunxi looked at the tall figure in front of her, relaxed all of a sudden, and fell asleep completely. Shen-san stayed outside the shed all night. The next day. Oh my god. Shen-san, your eyes. Lu Yunxi looked at Shen-san's heavy dark circles and took a step back in fear. She understood instantly that her apprentice might not have slept all night last night. You kid, why are you so stupid? She shook her head helplessly, helped him into the shed, and let him lie on the bed. Sleep peacefully. I'm here. Shen-san nodded and fell asleep instantly. The two of them took turns resting here for several days before continuing on their journey. Master, there is an oasis ahead. Shen-san was so thin that he looked like a human. When he saw the oasis, he was excited. He threw away his staff and started running. Lu Yunxi was startled and shouted, don't drop your crutches and staff. What if there is quicksand later? When she reached the oasis, she reached out and gently touched the water in the lake. When she felt a wet touch, she laughed out loud. It was a real oasis. Not a mirage. Master, there are green plants. Let me try to see if I can eat them. Shen-san ran over and was about to jump into the cactus. Wait, she was startled by her apprentice's sudden action. In order to prevent him from being stabbed like a hedgehog on the spot, she pulled him back with all her strength. Shen-san was hungry and thirsty. He had no strength at all. When she pulled him, he fell back and fell on her. The two fell into a ball. Lu Yunxi blinked and looked at the person who fell on her. The enlarged face was pressed against her, and the soft lips were pressed against hers. From her angle, she could see the pair of sparkling eyes. She was a little flustered and wanted to push him away, but her weak hands stretched out, which was more like teasing. Not only did she fail to push him away, but Shen-san's muscles became even tighter. At this time, Shen-san finally reacted. He widened his eyes in an instant, and then used his hands and feet to step back, widening the distance between the two. The two were separated by a fist's distance, but it seemed as if there was a Chu River and Han River between them. He stared at the sand on the ground, as if a flower had grown there. Seeing his nervous look, Yunxi's originally flustered heartbeat gradually calmed down. This is what everyone often says, as long as you are not embarrassed, others will be embarrassed, right? After a long while, Yunxi was the first to get up and carefully cut a little cactus with a knife. Shen-san, do you want to taste it? She put one hand under the cactus to collect the juice, and pinched the cactus with the other hand, carefully bringing it to his lips. When Shen-san saw her approaching, he took a few steps back. When he saw her surprised expression, he realized that he had overreacted. He coughed twice. Master, I can do it myself, okay? This cactus is full of thorns, be careful when you pick it, don't get pricked. Yunxi didn't care, put the cut part of the cactus to his mouth, carefully avoiding the thorns and sucking it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.